Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. People in Marvel, Venom host. Chapter 21, The Unlucky Guy Who Came to Your Door. The symbiont washes dishes more efficiently than a dishwasher, and the kitchen is cleaned up within 20 minutes. Chen Linen made a barrel, of tea for himself and Venom. They sat on the sofa and drank tea while watching today's news. Today's news is still inseparable from Spider-Man, especially the Daily Bugle. This platform has a deep love for Spider-Man. It feels uncomfortable if it doesn't publish some negative news related to Spider-Man every day. This mustache is really full of evil. When I was still in Peter Parker's body, I was often targeted by this damn old man. Venom said angrily while watching the impassioned James on the TV. Chen Linen also took a sip of tea and said, after all, Spider-Man is their daily sales code. It would be boring if they broadcast the same content and the same views as other platforms. While the two of them were chatting, a furtive figure slowly approached Chen Linen's house. His malicious intentions were like a bright light in the dark night, and Venom discovered his existence almost instantly. Seeing the location and situation that Venom shared with him, Chen Linen also snorted coldly and said, although Paul Mark hasn't been searched yet, but now these people who don't have long eyes have started to come to the door. He, I can't miss his head this time. Venom said, licking his sharp teeth. Black viscous liquid covered his whole body, and Chen Linen instantly turned into a little giant over 2 meters tall. Looking at his appearance, Chen Linen also said softly, it should be fine with the normal size, so I won't scare him this time, so as not to stain the floor. After speaking, he controlled himself to become a normal size, and he called this normal size mode the hidden person form. The hidden one looks like the size of a normal person, less scary and frightening than the giant's original form, but more agile and mysterious. He is slowly approaching, with his hand still on the pistol at his waist. It seems that he wants to go in directly to see if you are there. If you are there, he will just draw out the gun. Venom communicated with Chen Linen on the conscious level. Chen Linen also saw the sneaky figure approaching outside through the sharing of Venom. He snorted coldly and said with a chuckle, then wait for him to come in, I will entertain him well. Chen Linen backed away while talking, hiding his figure in the shadows. Roy Jones held the pistol and quietly rolled into the yard. He was sure that the target he wanted to solve should be at home at this time, because he had just seen the light of the TV and the sound of the news broadcast through the curtains. Damn it, why would someone still draw the curtains in the morning? Is this a special habit of Asians? Roy Jones cursed inwardly, somewhat incomprehensibly. If there is no curtain, he can try to shoot and kill the opponent from the outside without entering the yard, so that it is convenient to fight and escape. Just as he was approaching the door of Chen Linen's house, he heard the sound of the TV inside suddenly disappear, and then a sound of footsteps sounded from the living room, then weakened with the sound of closing the door, and finally was completely covered by the sound of water from the shower. It seems that he is going to take a shower, so that's just right. Roy Jones skillfully picked the lock of the door while thinking, and then pushed the door open as quietly as possible and walked inside. He walked through the hallway, past the living room, and slowly came to the bathroom door where the sound of running water was heard. It was probably because there was no one else in the house, so the bathroom door was not closed, which was convenient for Roy Jones, because even if he opened the door, he would not make any sound. The bathroom was filled with steam and was separated by a curtain. Roy Jones jerked open the curtain and was about to shoot, but there was nothing in the dripping water behind the curtain. At the same time, a hand stretched out from behind him, grabbed his neck directly and threw him back against the wall. Seeing the black figure with a hood whose face could not be seen clearly in front of him, Roy Jones also turned his wrist and shot at the strange man who was choking his neck. Bang! 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 Dot! The dull gunshot echoed in the bathroom. Although the pistol had a silencer, the sound of shooting was still loud in the bathroom. The smell of this gunpowder is very spicy, like the devil pepper in a burrito. Venom swallowed all the bullets, and shared their taste with Chen Linen. Before he finished firing all the bullets, Chen Linen directly broke his joints and removed his arm. Then before he let out a miserable scream, Chen Linen pinched his mouth tightly with his hand, preventing him from speaking. What a surprise that came to my door. I was worried that I couldn't find anyone. Chen Linen said in a hoarse voice. Now let me ask you an answer. If you dare to make any noise that has nothing to do with the question, I will break one of your bones. 2 of your main bones have been broken. I hope you can cherish the remaining opportunities. Understand? Hearing this cold and hoarse threat, Roy Jones quickly nodded to indicate that he understood. He finally understood that the strange guy in front of him was another masked weirdo like Spider-Man. In the next 5 minutes, Roy Jones answered all of Chen Linen's questions very cooperatively. It could be seen that he really wanted to live and had a strong desire to survive. I have said everything I need to say. Can I leave now? I promise I will not say a word more about what happened today. I will leave the United States directly by boat in the afternoon. Roy Jones was very afraid that he would be silenced, so as soon as I finished speaking, I quickly promised that I would never speak nonsense. Chen Linen also spoke after hearing this. Don't worry, didn't I tell you that I won't do anything to you? So the next thing will be handed over to another person. You can also say that it will be handled by another person. After he finished speaking, his head suddenly began to split in the middle as if it had been cut with a knife, and sharp teeth and a scarlet tongue poked out from inside. While Roy Jones screamed in horror, the venom gnawed off his head in one bite, and then continued to grow his mouth before the blood gushed out, completely cleaning up his body in one bite. Chapter 22, See you at the old place. Roy Jones disappeared from this world and was eaten clean by the venom. After a long absence, he was very happy after eating the venom of brain poisoning. Only Chen Linen sat on the bathroom toilet with a pale face, not knowing what he was thinking. Are you feeling a little uncomfortable? Seeing Chen Linen's appearance, Venom also turned his head and asked. Seeing Venom speak, Chen Linen immediately raised his hand and said, Don't talk to me, let me slow down. He just ate a person in 2 bites. Although the venom weakened his senses as mentioned before, he still felt uncomfortable. After a while, Chen Linen took a deep breath and adjusted himself, and his expression returned to normal. Seeing that his condition had improved, Venom's uneasy heart gradually calmed down. After all, it had promised not to feel a little bit before, and it even bet on his chocolate. Seeing Venom's cautious and timid look, Chen Linen didn't say anything, but just walked out of the bathroom and sat on the sofa while drinking tea and talking. Don't worry, I won't skip your chocolate. Although it still feels a little strange, it's not unacceptable. Hey, I knew you would be fine. Venom replied with a playful smile after hearing what it said, Come on, eat a piece of chocolate and be happy. Chen Linen took the chocolate handed by Venom and put it into his mouth and bit it. The rich and mellow aroma suddenly bloomed in his mouth, filling every corner. I have to say that chocolate is indeed delicious, especially the brands and types carefully selected by the chocolate master Venom, which are considered top-notch products in chocolate. Before Chen Linen could finish the last piece of chocolate, the computer upstairs began to send out signals that something had been gained. Chen Linen and Venom looked at each other, and then quickly ran upstairs. On the computer screen, a photo of a man with short hair was displayed. It looked like he was in a convenience store. It was very similar to the photo of Rick Frey at that time. This guy went to find Rick Frey. This convenience store is where Rick Frey was identified last time. Now he is also identified here. It's really interesting. Looking at the photo on the screen convenience store, Chen Linen said to Venom. Perhaps the two of them can be together until death. Venom replied very venomously. Afterwards, there was no ink marks, and they jumped out of the window directly, still controlled by the venom, and rushed there at the fastest speed. After all, Rick Frey is dead. If Paul Mark sees the situation in the basement, he should be able to understand his current situation to some extent. When he shrinks into a corner and cannot come out, Chen Linen will find him if he wants. There's some trouble. Damn, this basement is really far away. Paul Mark got out of the car and walked towards the convenience store not far away. He had left in a hurry when he came here. He didn't bring anything with him. He was very thirsty now and had finished smoking on the way. He just happened to buy another pack of cigarettes. It didn't look like a small convenience store. There was only a greasy middle-aged man with a bulging belly and messy hair lying on a chair reading a magazine. When Paul Mark entered the door, the two of them glanced at each other, and then looked away again. Paul Mark took out a bottle of water from the cabinet, unscrewed it and drank half of the bottle. The feeling of being hydrated made him relax. He took out 2 more bottles of water from the cabinet, and then went to the counter to pay. Bring me another pack of Camels. Paul Mark raised his chin towards the cigarettes on the shelf behind him. Hearing this, the middle-aged boss also stood up from his chair, and then accurately took out a pack of Camels from the cigarette case under the counter. A total of $7.50. The middle-aged boss looked at Paul Mark and quoted the price. His eyes never left Paul Mark. You don't need to look for it. Paul Mark directly took out a $10 note from his wallet and put it on the table, then took the things and walked out of the convenience store. Seeing Paul Mark get in the car and leave here, the boss raised his hand under the cabinet. He has opened a shop here for so many years, and he can tell who someone is like at a glance. From the time Paul Mark entered the door, the boss knew that this person should be a gang member, or the kind that is not easy to mess with, so he kept his face still and kept vigilant. His hand was down there just now, but he was holding a shotgun, and if something went wrong, he would pick it up and fire it immediately. But fortunately, everything is normal, nothing unusual happened. This gangster is surprisingly generous. He doesn't seem like the kind of low-level gangster who doesn't suffer from anything, and just wants to take advantage of you. Young people still can't do it, I have to sit in charge with my old bones. The boss lay down on his chair while muttering in his mouth. Originally, he hired a young man to help him look after the store, so that he could save some trouble, but the young man suddenly quit the job the day before yesterday. It is said that he encountered a gang and was afraid of his life. Thinking of this, the boss also shook his head, and then changed to an even more exciting magazine to read. Paul Mark continued to drive on the road after shopping. The address of the basement was not far from here. He would soon know what was going on with that damned guy, and he hadn't answered his calls. The car parked steadily on the side of the road. Paul Mark opened the car door and looked at the dilapidated houses here, frowning. This place is indeed desolate. It is estimated that no one will come here except him and Rick Frey, who is hiding here. After thinking about where Rick Frey's basement was, he lifted his feet and walked over there. There was no light on the stairs leading to the basement, only darkness. The cool wind was mixed with a smell, which made Paul Mark pinch his nose and frown. Did this damn guy have a whole house full of garbage in there? Oh! Damn it! Where did so many rats come from? Paul Mark kicked away all the scattered mice at the door, and then opened the somewhat dilapidated door. The moment he opened the door, many frightened flies flew out, and the disgusting stench mixed in the air hit him directly in the face, making him almost vomit in disgust. When he reluctantly turned his head and looked inside, he saw only a headless body lying on the basement floor. The corpse was already occupied by the gnawing sounds of rats and flies, and there were many maggots moving around on the foul-smelling carrion. The floor next to the corpse was soaked with blood. The dried blood showed a deep black-red color and exuded the unique fishy smell of blood. The scene in the basement coupled with the suffocating stench made Paul Mark feel dizzy and almost fainted. Just when he was about to quickly turn around and run out to get some air, a black figure that appeared at an unknown time had already blocked in front of him. Chapter 23, The Cause of the Disaster. Why are you leaving in such a hurry when you've just arrived? We haven't even started communicating properly yet. The hoarse and deep voice echoed in the basement stairwell, looking a bit eerie and ghostly. Paul Mark was also taken aback by this sudden appearance, and even the uncontrollable vomiting just now disappeared suddenly. Who are you and why did you suddenly appear here? Did you kill him? Paul Mark said as he looked at Chen Linen, who suddenly appeared in front of him with vigilance. The other party's strange dress and appearance made him feel a little dangerous, and he subconsciously wanted to stay away. As expected of a boss, his brain works very fast and he guessed the correct answer in no time. Chen Linen approached Paul Mark as he spoke. The venom had weakened his sense of smell, so he didn't feel much discomfort in such an environment. Then have you guessed what will happen to you next? Although Paul Mark was constantly retreating, Chen Linen was faster, and suddenly rushed in front of him, grabbed his neck and lifted it up. He. Heavy breathing sounded in the basement. Paul Mark kept beating Chen Linen's hand, trying to make him let go of the pain, but it didn't work. He squeezed harder and harder. Paul Mark's face was getting redder and redder, and his eyes were about to pop out. Because of the extreme lack of oxygen, his head was already a little muddy and confused. Just when he felt like he was about to die, the big hand holding his neck suddenly loosened, allowing him to absorb some fresh air. While he greedily absorbed the air, he heard the hoarse voice next to him saying, sorry, I almost lost control and I will kill you now. I have to ask you some questions, but I don't dare to let you go to hell now. Paul Mark stared closely at the face in front of him, whose face was unclear and could only see two pale, narrow eyes. He said in a hoarse voice, why did you do this? When have I ever offended you? Or are you and others here to trouble the Bloodhead Gang? The Bloodhead Gang is not as simple as you think, and the money is not so safe to hold. Chen Linen heard Paul Mark's words and understood that the other party regarded him as a killer hired by a rival gang. He had no idea what kind of trouble the things arranged a few days ago would bring him. Perhaps in his opinion, dealing with a college student is as simple as crushing an ant, with no challenge at all and no possibility of accidents. Ah! It seems that you haven't understood what the problem is yet, but it doesn't matter. Maybe you will know it when you see my face. Chen Linen took off the cover on his face as he spoke, and his face under the hood Zhang's angular and delicate face appeared in front of Paul Mark. Seeing his face, Paul Marco's eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't understand what was going on. It was clear that the young man in front of him was just a delivery boy before, but how could he now become such a strange killer? Damn it! Since Chen Linen appeared in front of him like this, it meant that the people he sent to deal with Chen Linen today had also been dealt with. It seems that you already know what's going on, so let's stop talking nonsense and tell me why you did this? Who instigated you? Chen Linen let the venom cover his face again, and then continued to speak loudly, if you don't tell me who is instructing you, then I will treat you as the mastermind behind the scenes. Let me spoil it for you in advance. The treatment of the two is different. You may still have a chance to die happily, but the mastermind behind it will only be crushed into a pulp by me inch by inch. The Bloodhead gang won't let you go. Paul Mark. He didn't answer the adult's question, he just stared at him with wide eyes and yelled sternly. What? The miserable screams sounded again in the basement, and Chen Linen directly tortured Paul Mark's stubbornness with practical actions. A few sharp black tentacles protruded from his back, directly nailing Paul Mark's limbs firmly to the wall. There was also a tentacle that turned into a small and sharp blade, which continuously scratched Paul Mark's body, leaving a trail of blood marks. You can choose to continue to be a tough guy. Anyway, we still have a lot of time. Paul Mark's screams became louder as the tentacles that penetrated his limbs slowly turned. After each torture for 10 minutes, Chen Linen would leave 1 minute for him to choose to speak. If you still keep silent, the next torture will be even more difficult. Finally, after enduring it for the 3rd time, Paul Mark finally couldn't continue to be a tough guy. The severe pain and unbearable itching made him unbearable. Stop! I said. Give me a good time. Hearing his shout, Chen Linen also stopped, waiting for his opening. Paul Mark gasped and calmed his breathing, and then he spoke intermittently, it's actually not complicated. We showed up in that house that day to deal with the gang mob. That damn guy leaked our information to other gangs, causing a deal to go bad and a lot of money to be lost. Our boss, John Harmon, was very angry. He asked his younger brother Harvey Harmon to deal with this matter properly, so that all the gang brothers would understand the consequences of betraying the Bloodhead gang. Then we followed Boss Harvey wherever we went. At first everything went in an orderly manner according to our plan, until after Boss Harvey beat the guy to death, the doorbell suddenly rang. Hearing this, Linen also understood that this was the moment when he intervened in their affairs. We know you are here to deliver food, but we can't let you see what's going on in the house. Because the boss told me not to cause any accidents, so Boss Harvey asked me to pretend to be that damn guy and pick up the takeaway. Slow down should have ended like this, but the person dragging the corpse suddenly let go, causing the corpse to roll down the stairs. So the thud that sounded that day was the sound of a corpse rolling down the stairs. Chen Linen couldn't help but clenched his fists when he got here. That's right. Paul Mark nodded weakly and then continued. Then after you left, Boss Harvey stood where you were standing and repeated the situation at that time, and finally found that when the corpse fell down the stairs and made a sound, you could see the corpse and blood inside when you looked back. In order not to make this matter more troublesome, Boss Harvey asked me to clean you up. Hearing this, Chen Linen finally couldn't control his anger, and smashed the wall in front of him into rubble with one punch. Chapter 24, Life is Better Than Death. Get rid of him, what a few light words. Old York paid the price with his life for these words. If it weren't for the existence of Venom, he would have lost his life in the car accident that was regarded as an accident, and became a member of the Bloodhead gang. An inconspicuous case of blood debt. The wall was shattered, and Paul Mark was smashed to the ground by the scattered gravel. Before he could dig up the gravel himself, Chen Linen pulled it out with his tentacles. Tell me all the information you know about the Bloodhead gang, and about the brothers named Harmon. We know everything about them. Chen Linen's voice was suppressed with anger. He wanted to clean up the pair of brothers and the entire Bloodhead gang, so as to pay homage to the innocent dead Old York. When death was imminent, Paul Mark's heart calmed down. As a gang member, he had to be mentally prepared for such a day, but this day seemed to come a little early, a little fast, and a little unexpected. Thinking of this angry young man in front of him, he actually had some worries about the future of the Bloodhead gang. Scary stuff. Maybe he can easily knock down one person, two people, or three people, but when he is faced with dozens of guns of various models pointed at his head, can he still be as easy as he is now? In Paul Mark's knowledge, there is absolutely no one who can face dozens of guns with ease. Chen Linan didn't know that the dying man in front of him would have so many thoughts in his head, otherwise he would have made him give up before setting out on the road. Dozens of guns may be dangerous to other people, even Spider-Man, but to the symbiote Venom, they are just some spicy melon seeds and pose no threat. After symbiosis with Chen Linan, Venom's weak resistance to flames and sound waves has improved a lot, and it is still slowly improving as Chen Linan grows. So as long as you don't blast him with a rocket launcher, or spray around him with a flame burner, basically there will be no harm to the Venom. Sonic weapons are relatively rare, and ordinary noise has no effect on current Venom. In the dark basement, Paul Mark was half lying on a pile of stones and told all the information he knew, including the Bloodhead gang and the Harmon brothers. The Bloodhead gang is one of several large-scale gangs in New York City. It is very powerful. Although several other large-scale gangs are also tied with it, they are slightly inferior in terms of financial resources and skills. The main business of the Bloodhead gang is the drug business, and nearly % of the drug business in New York is controlled by it. Other gangs are also very envious and covet their drug business, but no matter whether it is their deeper background, their strength on paper, or their methods of doing things, they can't beat the Bloodhead gang. So for so many years, the Bloodhead gang has been a behemoth in the New York underground world. The Harmon brothers are the two people at the top and core of the entire Bloodhead gang. Especially John Harmon, as the older brother, is the soul and brain of the entire Bloodhead gang. Although Paul Mark is Harvey Harmon's younger brother, his understanding of John Harmon is not special. John Harmon is still very mysterious to people at their level. It is estimated that only Harvey Harmon and a few people can come into contact with him. In contrast, Paul Mark knows and is more familiar with Harvey Harmon, who is his immediate superior. If John Harmon is the brain and soul of the entire Bloodhead gang, then Harvey Harmon is the sharp blade of the Bloodhead gang. He is not as smart as his brother, but his methods are ruthless and powerful, almost like Bloodhead. Help the living devil. Until this moment, the original appearance of the whole matter and the true face of the enemy were fully displayed in front of Chen Linan. Chen Linan's psychological feelings are very complicated. It is obviously the passing of a life, the beginning of a suffering, and the eternal trauma and pain in a person's heart. But the cause is so simple, so ordinary. Erasing a person's traces is as sparse and ordinary as talking about eating and drinking. I've told you everything I know, give me a good time. Paul Mark, who was ready to accept death calmly, lay on the pile of rubble and said in a flat tone. He knew that he would definitely die today. Chen Linan had just said that, in this case, he wanted to leave more quickly. Seeing Paul Mark dying calmly, Chen Linan's complex emotions suddenly spread like an overturned paint bucket. All kinds of feelings finally turned into anger and resentment, and the corners of his mouth curled up uncontrollably under the impetus of emotion. Ha 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 ha. Chen Linan knelt on the ground and covered his face. The crazy and sharp laughter came out of his hands and pierced Paul Mark's heart, causing his originally calm mood to suddenly become uneasy and panicked. The gravel around him seemed to be shaking slightly uncontrollably following the maniacal laughter. The laughter lasted for a few minutes before gradually stopping. When Chen Linan lowered his hands in front of his face, his originally pale and narrow eyes turned red at some point. I changed my mind. Although you have said everything I want to know, I still don't want you to die so easily. The hoarse and deep voice echoed in the basement space, and Paul Mark's heart sank even further. Under the double intrusion of the pressure of death and the strange situation, he collapsed and shouted, "Kill me quickly! You monster! I've said all you want. You're going to give me a good death, as you promised. Kill me! Damn it!" Chen Linan ignored Paul Mark's yelling, but slowly stood up and walked towards him. A gang member, a scum among the crowd, a scum of society, how has he got the right to negotiate a commitment with me? I won't let you die so happily. I will cut off all the muscles, bones and joints of your limbs, and then peel off the skin to expose the flesh and blood. I think you should have seen those mice and flies when you just came in. As Chen Linan spoke, he manipulated the tentacles to cut off Paul Mark's bones and joints, turning him into a lump of rotten flesh that could only lie on the ground but couldn't move or even turn over. Yes, they will slowly eat away your flesh and blood, lay eggs on your body, and let the maggots slowly burrow into your bones and crawl on your bones, making you feel what it means to penetrate deep into the bone marrow. Itchy and painful. Chapter 25, Sentencing and Psychiatric Issues. Paul Mark's eyes widened when he heard the words. He shook his head frantically in fear, and cursed Chen Linen in a crazy manner while begging. Chen Linen just continued to work with precision, then pinched his mouth open and pulled out the whole tongue. In order to avoid killing him all at once, Chen Linen also controlled the length of pulling out his tongue, and tilted his head very considerately to prevent him from choking to death on the blood in his mouth. This is because you are too busy talking and can't take time off. Now there is a bloody smell in your mouth. I don't think those rats will let it go. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot about your stomach, and I have to make a small cut in your stomach, lest those cute little guys forget this place. After Chen Linen finished these tasks, some mice that were not afraid of people had already occupied a good position in the front row. It must be able to grow bigger and fatter after the next period of time. Paul Mark couldn't move his limbs, and couldn't speak with his mouth. He could only wail silently, and then hit the ground with the back of his head hard, trying to kill himself. Seeing his movements, Chen Linen immediately broke a steel bar thoughtfully, kneaded it into a suitable shape, and then fixed his head completely so that he could not move, lest he really smashed himself to death. Even if the force is not fatal, knocking him unconscious is not allowed, because what Chen Linen wants is for him to gradually feel the approach of death while he is conscious, and to repent in extreme pain or regret that he came to this world. Just welcome death here, you bastard. In a few days, I will ask those two brothers and your colleagues to accompany you. The time for you to go to hell should be your front and back feet, and you must be on your way to hell. You won't be alone. Looking at the masterpiece on the ground, Chen Linen nodded with satisfaction, and then waved goodbye to Paul Mark, who was unable to struggle. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, Chen Linen also dug out a large piece of steel plate from the abandoned factory nearby and inserted it into the stairway leading to the basement, blocking all possible exits except leave a few ventilation holes poked out of the steel plate. Enjoy it with peace of mind, this is a death ceremony I carefully crafted for you. Chen Linen stood outside under the street tree, looking at the abandoned house in front of him and whispered. This is just the beginning, and his revenge needs the blood and souls of more people. After Paul Mark was dealt with, Chen Linen also returned home quickly. He sat in front of the desk and looked at the photo of him and Old York on the desk in silence. Old York has left this world, and no matter what means he uses, it is impossible to come back. The only thing he can do now is to teach those damned people to cramp and peel their skins one by one, making their lives worse than death. Only in this way can he feel better in his heart. Chen Linen let out a long breath, and the nerves that had been tense since just now seemed to relax a little. It wasn't until then that he realized that from just now to now, it seemed that Venom hadn't communicated with him for a long time, and he didn't say he wanted to eat his brain just now. Perhaps sensing Chen Linen's thoughts, the venom quickly condensed from his shoulders. I only now know why you attracted me back then. It turns out that you are not a normal person. Venom said to Chen Linen with some emotion as soon as the venom appeared. It was not adjusted by Chen Linen's huge mental power at that time, so the state it was in before possessing it was very evil and chaotic. After seeing Chen Linen's methods today, Venom also understood why he was chosen as his new host. Hearing Venom's explanation, Chen Linen twitched his lips helplessly. He didn't expect that he could do those things or have such thoughts, but if he was given the choice again, he would still do that. Even if this is some kind of evil in his core, it doesn't matter if he is a born villain. He doesn't have that high demand on himself, as long as he can kill all those who hurt him and are hostile to him, he doesn't need to label himself as a synonym for justice. If he can or needs it in reality, even if he becomes a devil, he doesn't have the slightest psychological burden. To be merciless to the damn miscellaneous, and to be as gentle as a breeze to loved ones and friends, this is Chen Linen's principle of dealing with people, and it is what Old York hopes he can do. Although the old man has a hot temper and loves to curse, he really loves Chen Linen and is very worried about Chen Linen's harm. So whether he was in high school or college before, he had only one requirement for Chen Linen, that is, if he was bullied, don't worry too much, and just do it. Eat a piece of chocolate, it will soothe your spirit. Venom said as he took a piece of hazelnut chocolate from the side and handed it to Chen Linen. Chen Linen was not polite, just broke off a piece and stuffed it into his mouth, then closed his eyes and savored the mellow aroma of the chocolate. When Chen Linen was eating chocolate, Venom also stuffed a piece for himself and continued, "You must have been wondering why I didn't communicate with you for a while. Actually, on the one hand, I was surprised by your actions, and on the other hand, I noticed something strange about your body at that time. Hearing Venom's words, Chen Linen also opened his eyes and asked with some confusion, "It's strange. What's strange about my body? It's still about the spirit. Most of your abnormalities are inseparable from it." Venom continued. "It was when you communicated with that bastard that your spirit became more and more active, and it reached its peak when you kept laughing. It's like an ocean suddenly being boiled, it feels very dangerous. But fortunately, it slowly descended again later, otherwise I feel that your spirit will blow your brain out. It's also for this reason that I haven't spoken all the time, to avoid communicating with you from affecting your consciousness, and then having other unpredictable effects." Hearing this, Chen Linen touched his head helplessly and sighed, "Hey, why do I feel like a time bomb is planted in my head, and there is a danger of exploding if I don't pay attention?" After hearing Chen Linen's words, Venom complained mercilessly, "How can you compare with a time bomb? Your head is much more dangerous than a time bomb." Chen Linen _ Chapter 26, Networking. Although Chen Linen was a little speechless about Venom's complaints, it was undeniable that what it said seemed to be correct. Judging from what Venom said, his current mentality may be really unstable. If there is a riot at some point, he may be the first to die, and then Venom will be the second. I think you should control your emotions. After all, you only killed one Paul Mark. Venom patted Chen Linen on the shoulder and persuaded him. You only deal with such a bastard and your spirit is so unstable. Then when we see the brothers again later, we will probably have to finish it ourselves before finishing them. So, listen to my advice, calm down and adjust your breathing, so that you can be in the most relaxed state. I remember when I was watching TV before, there was some introduction about Asan Yoga and some Chinese martial arts that can nourish the body, gather energy and calm the spirit. If you have time, watch more, practice more, let's set a small goal first, and don't let yourself kill the enemy first, how about it? Although some of Venom's persuasion sounds unreliable, there is generally nothing wrong with it. Chen Linen thought about it and felt that he should really pay attention to his mental problems. It seemed that since Old York had an accident and found out that the car accident was not an accident, his spirit has become more and more active and unreliable. It seems that there is one more pressing matter at hand now besides revenge, which is to find a way to calm down and protect your own life first, otherwise you will die before the revenge is done. After discussing with Venom how to deal with his spirit, Chen Linen also took out the things he had just taken from Paul Mark and put them on the table. There are not many things, just a wallet and a mobile phone. Chen Linen also learned from Paul Mark that Harvey Harmon did not have a fixed home, but only a few places he visited frequently. There are several nightclubs and bars in these frequently visited places, as well as a few normal apartment buildings. If Chen Linen wants to solve Harvey Harmon, he needs to investigate from these places one by one. After looking at all the alternative places, it is necessary to use some technological means to monitor so many places without missing anything. He decided to buy some monitoring equipment and place them around the entrances and exits of these places, so that he could accurately identify when and where Harvey Harmon would appear. It would be a bit too silly and tiring to just run over to check the places one by one according to the places he gave. After making the plan, while it was still dark, Chen Linen went out to some electronic equipment stores to buy what he needed. Because the quantity needed was too large, he ran to almost all the stores in Manhattan in order not to attract attention. After taking everything home, Chen Linen also started intensive manufacturing and debugging work. He wants to connect these monitors with the computer program he made before, monitor all these places at the same time, and remind Harvey Harmon as soon as he appears. After waiting for everything to be done, the night outside the window was already very dark. Chen Linen still didn't rest, he jumped out of the window with these things, and installed them all according to the preconceived location. When he returned home, the sky outside had already brightened up, and now everything was done, just waiting for Harvey Harmon to appear. Only by getting all these things done, can Chen Linen rest in peace. He drew the curtains, and told Venom to wake him up immediately if there was any reminder from the computer. After hearing the words, Venom also hurriedly assured that there was absolutely no problem, and then told him to go to sleep quickly. His current mental state urgently needed a deep sleep to relieve fatigue and relax. When Chen Linen woke up again, it was already noon the next day, and he actually slept through the whole day and the morning. Seeing Chen Linen waking up, Venom, who was working on something in front of the computer, also turned around and said to him, "You're awake, how did you sleep? You should be full by now." Chen Linen also nodded when he heard the words. He looked at the time on the table and asked a little dully, "Why have I slept for so long? Is there nothing going on during this time?" Venom waved his hand and said, "This is normal. After all, your spirit has been tense during this period." There was nothing during this period, and the computer program did not send out a signal. It seems that the guy is not very active. We may not be so lucky this time and have to wait a little longer. Chen Linen also let out a long breath when he heard the words, and then said as if comforting himself, "It's okay, things take a long time, anyway, we will kill him as soon as he shows up. I don't believe he can keep hiding. His death is already a certainty, but it's just a matter of time, and his brother, the news of that mysterious brother may only be pried out from Harvey's mouth. Perhaps it was the poison possessed that gave him a strong self-confidence, or maybe it was because he was alone now that he had no worries." Although he was about to face such a behemoth as the Bloodhead Gang, Chen Linen didn't feel any disturbance in his heart. He just wanted to kill those people one by one, and let the gang disintegrate bit by bit. Goo! Just as thoughts were racing through his brain, his stomach made a hungry sound. Although his spirit has been rested, the physical exertion has not yet begun to be replenished. "Let's put it on first," Venom said as he handed over a piece of chocolate. Chen Linen stuffed the chocolate into his mouth, and then went downstairs to cook. He took out all the ingredients he was going to use, and Venom was also helping him. After possessing Chen Linen, Venom also knew how delicious human food can be. Some mediocre vegetables and meat can become extremely fragrant after being cooked in a pot, which makes people drool. He used to think that the only things humans ate were junk food like pizza and hot dogs. While handling the ingredients, Chen Pingan took the time to steam the rice. Now that he has a big stomach like Venom, he has to steam a pot full of rice every time. This is really a novel experience. After all, besides the restaurant, who can eat rice and steam the rice pot to the full? While Chen Linen and Venom were busy in the kitchen, the doorbell suddenly rang. Chapter 27 Felicia's Surprise Visit. After hearing the doorbell, Chen Linen turned to look at Venom, and Venom smiled mysteriously when he saw this. "Hey, don't worry, it's not the enemy, go and open the door." Seeing Venom's appearance, Chen Linen also expected the person coming. There were not many people around him to begin with. When he pressed the doorknob and opened the door, as expected, Felicia's beautiful face came into view. She was wearing a black dress, elegant yet beautiful, and she was carrying a small and exquisite basket in her hand, which contained a small potted plant and a card. It can be seen from Felicia's dress that she is very attentive. She doesn't want to be too solemn so as not to bring up Chen Linen's bad memories, but she also properly expresses her respect and etiquette. After appropriately expressing surprise and polite invitation, Chen Linen took the small basket handed by Felicia, and then led her into the house. Felicia held her skirt and sat on the sofa, looking at the changes in the house. She has been here a few times before, and it seems that there is no change now, but it seems that there are a lot of chocolate boxes. Why are there so many chocolates? Leon is making some snacks. Felicia also thought with some confusion that she couldn't think of any other use for so much chocolate. Coffee? Or tea? Chen Linen asked Felicia as he walked towards the kitchen. Hearing Chen Linen's question, Felicia quickly pulled away from the chaotic thoughts, and then smiled and said, "Coffee is fine." After hearing this, Chen Linen operated the coffee machine to prepare coffee, and also made himself a cup of tea. "Are you preparing to cook just now?" Felicia, who was a little bored in the living room, came to the kitchen and said, looking at the vegetables Chen Linen had just brought to the chopping board. Looking at the curious Felicia, Chen Linen handed her the coffee and casually said, "Yes, I stayed up late last night to make something, so I just woke up not long ago. Have you eaten yet? Do you want to come together? Is that okay?" Felicia blinked and said. She was still very interested in Chinese food and had tasted Chen Linen's cooking when she came to visit before. Seeing Felicia's somewhat embarrassed test, Chen Linen also smiled and said, "Of course, I remember that you prefer chicken, so how about making sweet and sour pork loin with chicken, just like the chicken pot dumplings you have eaten before? Same, sweet and sour taste." "Yeah." Felicia nodded in agreement, and her eyes lit up when she thought of the taste she ate last time. Most of the most popular Chinese food in Europe and the United States are sweet and sour, but most restaurants cook too sweet and greasy, which is far less unique and layered than Chen Linen's. Looking at Chen Linen who was starting to chop vegetables and cook, Felicia suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She originally wanted to see Chen Linen and talk to him today, but why did she suddenly turn out to be just here for a meal? He doesn't think I'm a good eater, right? Felicia suddenly thought with a guilty conscience that there was no part of eating in her original plan. After all, it was already past lunchtime, but she didn't expect that Chen Linen last night I stayed up all night and now I'm eating. She actually didn't eat anything at noon today, and school will start soon, and she also has to do some body management. Thinking of this, she said in a strange way, actually, I didn't eat anything at noon. Hearing the words that Felicia suddenly uttered, Chen Linen was also taken aback for a moment, but soon he reacted and said with a smile, then I'll do more, I just happen to be hungry. Felicia regretted it as soon as she said it. God, what did she say? Did she forget to pick up her brain when she went out? Thinking of this, she quickly waved her hands and explained, no, I just want to say that I'm actually not very good at eating. That's not right. Why, the more she said this, the more strange it became. Felicia felt that her mouth might be broken. She was talking nonsense. Seeing Felicia like this, Chen Linen couldn't help but feel funny. He didn't know what was wrong with Felicia today. She always said something out of the blue that made people confused. While he smiled and changed the subject with Felicia, he thought to himself, what's wrong with this girl? Why is she talking nonsense? Or is it because I've been sleeping for a few days and my brain is a little slow and I can't understand her? What are you talking about? Venom also laughed strangely in Chen Linen's consciousness, and was very happy to see the excitement. Felicia's heart was so embarrassed at the moment, but she still pretended to be calm, chatting with Chen Linen as if nothing had happened, as if she didn't say what she said just now. Accompanied by pleasant laughter and chatting, the embarrassment just now was gradually forgotten, and Felicia finally felt that the main purpose of her trip had some effect. I hope Leon can get out of the grief soon. Felicia looked at Chen Linen and thought in her heart, although I know it's hard, but Leon looks better than last time, I can feel it, he doesn't seem to feel so heavy anymore. If Chen Linen knew what Felicia was thinking, he would definitely feel that her feeling was accurate. His heart was indeed lighter than a few days ago. After all, he had solved a few miscellaneous things and knew the clues of the others. After the Harmon brothers are also dealt with, he can comfort old York's spirit in heaven and let him live peacefully in heaven. With Felicia's presence, there was a bit more excitement and laughter on the dining table today, but Venom was a little unhappy because he couldn't enjoy his meal. It can only come out to eat after Felicia is gone. If ordinary people see it like that, it must not be scared to death. However, there are advantages and disadvantages to this. Although Venom can't eat, it doesn't need to wash the dishes, which is a rare leisure day. It's okay. Just help me take the bowl back to the kitchen. I'll wash it later. Venom, who was sighing, suddenly heard Chen Linen say to Felicia. Venom's face changed when he heard this, and he shouted in Chen Linen's mind, you can't do this. You must have waited for her to leave and then asked me to wash it. Cunning human being, I have seen your purpose, I refuse. Chen Linen seemed to have not heard Venom's noise, and still collected the dishes and went to the kitchen with his usual expression. Of course, Felicia would not really do that. After helping the dishes and chopsticks to go back, she offered to clean up the mess. Chen Linen was too embarrassed to let the other party clean up alone, so the two of them started working in the kitchen together. Chen Linen was very emotional while wiping the dishes. It was a long-lost feeling. He hadn't washed the dishes much since the poison possessed him. Although his trick did not succeed, Venom has been cursing and expressing his dissatisfaction in his consciousness. It was not until he took out the trump card to reduce the share of chocolate that Venom shut his mouth. Chapter 28, Chance Encounter. Originally, it was already past noon when Chen Linen woke up. Then he cooked, ate, cleaned up, and chatted. By the time they came back to their senses, the sky outside had gradually darkened. Ah, I didn't pay attention to the time. I didn't expect it to be so late. Felicia looked at the sky outside the window and said in surprise. She didn't pay attention to the time passing so quickly. After saying that, Felicia also stood up and said goodbye to Chen Linen. Her mother would be worried if she didn't go home. She only decided to come to see Chen Linen at noon today, so she didn't tell her mother in advance. I'll see you off. I'll drive in a moment. Chen Linen and Felicia walked out of the house together, and then went to the garage to drive. Felicia didn't drive when she came here today, and it's getting late now. It's not safe for her to go home alone. Brooklyn, which is bustling during the day, also has many dangers at night, especially for single women. After the car drove out of the garage, Felicia also opened the door and sat in. Felicia also showed interest as she watched Chen Linen skillfully operate the car on the road. After seeing her expression from the corner of his eye, Chen Linen also smiled and said, "Why, there is something wrong with my driving." Hearing what he said, Felicia also shook her head and blinked and said, "No, it just feels like you've been holding down the speed, and you're going to drive faster subconsciously. It's all for you to see." Chen Linen was also a little surprised after hearing Felicia's words, which shows that she has a lot of research on cars or has some research on drag racing. He smiled and continued, "I didn't expect Felicia, a rigorous scientific expert, to have such hobbies and interests." Hearing Chen Linen's words, Felicia also raised her chin arrogantly, and then responded not to be outdone, "Isn't it the same for you? No one would have thought that Leon, who looks calm and peaceful, also likes racing." After they finished speaking, they looked at each other and then laughed involuntarily. The speeding car soon arrived at the downstairs of Felicia's house. After getting off the car, Felicia happily waved goodbye to him, then jumped up behind a middle-aged woman who also had blonde hair and scared him. One jump. That should be Mrs. Hardy. Chen Linen, who saw this scene in the car, also thought to himself. Felicia's mother, Anastasia Hardy, is a well-known philanthropist and entrepreneur in New York City. The Hardy Foundation founded by her has considerable influence in the business and political circles. It is precisely with such a family background that Felicia has grown up so well. In the words of Old York, she is a beautiful and well-educated outstanding woman. For such a beautiful and well-educated girl, you have to hurry up and seize the opportunity, otherwise you will regret it in the future. Old York looked at Chen Linen, who was only eating pizza and drinking Coke in front of him, and said in a somewhat disdainful way. When Chen Linen heard this, he just burped nonchalantly, then waved his hand and said, "Old man, you are thinking too much. We are just ordinary friends. How come you are so purposeful in what you say?" Chen Linen changed the words several times in his mind before he found a suitable one. He felt very uncomfortable with Old York's highly purposeful way of making friends. "Hey, you kid, what are you talking about? I'm teaching you how to fall in love," Old York said loudly when he heard Chen Linen's words. "Old man, you have no purpose, don't others around you also have no purpose? You have to know that there are not many excellent girls. I'm not asking you to go out and date others. I'm just asking you to pay more attention to outstanding girls like this, so that you don't have to own girls like this when you wake up. Look. What would you do?" Okay, I get it. It's a one-off thing. You should find yourself a wife first." Chen Linen replied without showing any weakness. These remarks made Old York furious, and he stood up in an instant to teach him a lesson. If Chen Linen hadn't run fast, his head would probably have swelled up. Memories of the past came to mind, and Chen Linen couldn't help but laugh when he thought about the scene at that time. After he finished laughing, a hint of bitterness appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Hey!" Chen Linen sighed, looked up at the shimmering starry sky and said nothing for a while. After a while, he sorted out his mood and started the car to go home. When I drove him through the second intersection next to him, under the opposite red light, a big G made him squint his eyes involuntarily. Under the effect of his extraordinary eyesight, he could clearly see the face of the man in the opposite driving seat, and it was the owner of this face that caused him a series of pains. Harvey Harmon. Chen Linen involuntarily clenched the steering wheel with both hands, and at the same time the button on his cuff began to heat up and vibrate. "It's so lucky, this guy just appeared in front of us. I can't wait to get close to him." The venom condensed on Chen Linen's shoulder, and it also stared at its next job. Rations. A few seconds later, the red light turned green, and the car driven by Chen Linen passed the big G. After passing the traffic light, he drifted on the spot and turned his head to drive in the direction of the big G. He just followed Harvey Harmon from a distance, until the other party's car was parked under a luxurious apartment building. Chen Linen watched Harvey Harmon get off the car, then estimated the time it would take him to get off the car and enter the building to take the elevator. After comparing it with the lights that came on throughout the building, he finally determined that his accommodation was probably on the 16th floor. Chen Linen parked the car on a side of the road where no one passed by or existed, and then transformed into a black hidden person and climbed up the building silently from the bottom of the building. He climbed effortlessly on the wall, then stopped outside on the 16th floor, observing the inside through the window on the balcony that was not blocked by the curtains. Harvey Harmon was the only one in the whole room. It could be seen that he was indeed very confident in his own strength. He also left the boys in the car downstairs on standby and did not let them guard at the door. This confidence is exactly what Chen Linen needs. With Harvey Harmon alone in the room, he will have less trouble. He only needs to control the other person well and not alert other people. Chapter 29, Finally Waiting for You. Harvey Harmon in the room did not know that he had entered the countdown to death. He was lying comfortably on the sofa, smoking a cigar and enjoying wine. Why didn't that guy Paul report to me for so long? It takes so long to solve even a small problem. Harvey Harmon thought about it and put a question mark on Paul Mark's work ability. I originally thought that if he could solve the problem well, I would give him a chance to improve, but now it seems that I need to think about it again. Harvey Harmon put down the wine glass at this thought, picked up the phone on the table and flipped through the address book. After finding Paul Mark's phone number, he pressed the call button to contact him. Beep beep beep. After the phone was connected, the sound rang regularly. At the same time, a crisp ringtone rang from his balcony. After hearing the noise, Harvey Harmon was also a little stunned. He looked at the phone in his hand and then at the balcony, not understanding what was going on. Then he quickly regained his composure, then took out a pistol from the drawer of the coffee table, looked at the balcony and walked towards that direction with a somewhat wary expression. As he walked, he pressed the phone and dialed Paul Mark's number, and the phone still rang from the balcony. Harvey Harmon had almost reached the balcony at this time. He followed the sound and looked towards the balcony, only to see a figure who couldn't see clearly sitting on a chair on the balcony and looking at him, holding a phone emitting a faint blue light. Damn it! Who are you? Harvey Harmon immediately raised his hand to shoot when he saw someone. But before Buletin finished speaking, Chen Linen, who was on the balcony, rushed over quickly, broke his left wrist with one hand so that he could not hold the gun, and pinched his neck with the other hand to lift him up. Finally, found you. Chen Linen stared at Harvey Harmon, who was having difficulty breathing, and spat out a few hoarse and cold words from between his teeth. Harvey Harmon didn't know what happened. The sudden suffocation made him roll his eyes. His instinct to survive made his right hand that was still intact grab the hand that was pinned to his neck, trying to get a little freshness for himself. Air. However, Chen Linen's strength was very strong. If he hadn't restrained his strength, Harvey Harmon's neck would have been broken by now. Seeing Harvey, whose face was gradually congested and purple, Chen Linen finally let go of his hand gradually. He still had a lot to ask this man, so it was absolutely impossible for him to die so easily. When all his value has been squeezed out, he will let this scum taste what it feels like to live rather than die. Harvey Harmon sat slumped against the wall. He didn't know how long he had felt this feeling. He took a few deep breaths, then suddenly stood up and rushed towards Chen Linen, holding a dagger in his hand that he had secretly pulled out from behind his waist when he was sitting on the ground just now. Harvey Harmon's sudden attack didn't work. Chen Linen raised his hand in advance to block his surprise attack as if he had expected it. Cut it! Catch it! With a few crisp sounds, Harvey Harmon's intact right hand was broken into several pieces by Chen Linen. Then Chen Linen took away the dagger again, and then kicked Harvey Harmon, who was lying on the ground with his teeth clenched on his side, to the corner of the living room. It seems that what Paul Mark said is right. You are indeed just a brainless idiot. Chen Linen looked at Harvey Harmon, who was spitting out acid water in pain in the corner of the living room, and said in a cold and disdainful tone. This kind of contemptuous attitude has always been what Harvey Harmon hates the most. He lay on the ground and turned to glare fiercely at Chen Linen, and then shouted fiercely. I just said why someone came to me suddenly. It turned out that Paul Mark, that damn guy, betrayed me. It seems that beating that traitor to death in front of him last time didn't make his memory long. He'd better die by your hands, or I'll make his life worse than death, damn bastard, fuck TMD. Cough cough cough. Hearing Harvey Harmon scolding, Chen Linen also shook his head and said jokingly, tisk tisk tisk, it's really hot, but don't worry, I've already taken care of it for you. He had already discovered what kind of tone he should use in Harvey Harmon. This guy was indeed the most unbearable for others to treat him with contempt and all behaviors that belittled him. Perhaps he treated the traitor so cruelly because in his opinion, the traitor just ignored him, which was an insult to him. Counting the time, I guess those cute little guys have hollowed out all his flesh and blood. I really hope he is still alive at this time. After all, I will probably never feel this way again in the next life. Speaking of which, he has to thank me for giving him such an unforgettable experience. After hearing Chen Linen's words, Harvey Harmon also realized that Paul Mark had been tortured to death by the guy in front of him. What kind of hatred made the mysterious guy in front of him do such a thing? Harvey Harmon racked his brains and didn't even think about when he had offended such a mysterious existence. Judging from his skill and reaction, it is definitely not something that ordinary people can have. He knows the strength of the New York gangsters. It is impossible for any gang to suddenly have such a master without him knowing. Thinking of this, he also looked up at Chen Linen and said coldly, "Who are you?" "In my memory, the Bloodhead gang has never offended anyone like you. Or did you mean that other gangs jointly hired you to get rid of me, and that group of miscellaneous fish has such strength now?" Chen Linen was also silent when he heard Harvey Harmon's words. After Paul Mark's incident, he had already expected it. Tasks such as clearing out some irrelevant personnel are basically not a big deal to their people. No one would have thought that an ant that could be crushed to death would suddenly turn into a behemoth that could crush them to death with a backhand. Seeing Chen Linen's silence, Harvey Harmon thought his guess was correct. So he continued to speak, "How much can those guys give you?" "I'll give you double, no, triple. As long as you let me go and tell me who hired you, you can get several times the money, ahem. Moreover, I can continue to patronize your business in the future. If you don't mind going back and killing those people, I can also give you a generous commission to do this. You should know what I do. We can do long-term business. If I don't tell you how the Bloodhead gang exists, you must know it well." Chapter 30, Negotiation. Harvey Harmon thought very well. With a name like the Bloodhead gang and his second-in-command as a guarantor, no matter what kind of ruthless character he is, he should at least consider his proposal. But unfortunately, Chen Linen happened to not be such an existence. Harvey Harmon's words sounded like a dog barking in his ears. "Think about it carefully, what I can give you is not as simple as what those bastards promised," I cough. Before Harvey Harmon could finish speaking, Chen Linen kicked him again, causing him to curl up and roll back to the corner. Judging from the feeling of that kick just now, it should have directly broken several ribs this time. "Damn guy! I will definitely kill you." Harvey Harmon gritted his teeth and stared at Chen Linen as he said. It is indeed the most ferocious blade of the Bloodhead gang. Even after being beaten like this, it is still as ferocious as ever. Chen Linen didn't want to continue talking nonsense with him at the moment, only to see a few black tentacles suddenly sprang out from his back, one of which directly wrapped around Harvey Harmon's neck, lifted it from the ground, the remaining ones pierced through his limbs in turn and fixed them on the wall. After accumulating several times of experience, Chen Linen also discovered the benefits of this execution posture. Such a ritualistic method can not only magnify the pain of the other party, but also make it easier for him to operate. Chen Linen listened to Harvey Harmon's wailing with gritted teeth, walked slowly in front of him, and then let the cover on his face fade away, revealing the young and handsome face under the hood. "Do you think you are powerful just by clenching your teeth and not making a sound? I still have hundreds of ways to torture you. I hope you won't bite your tongue off after a while," Chen Linen said coldly. Then he pointed to his face and continued, "Look at my face now, do you remember who I am? This question involves different methods of punishment for a while, remember to answer it carefully." Looking at the young face revealed after the black mask receded like a tide, Harvey Harmon also frowned and fell into trouble. He really did not expect that the face in front of him had anything to do with him. Chen Linen also sneered after seeing Harvey Harmon's expression, and then covered his face again. "I already know your answer from your expression. I regret that I have to answer it in the worst way. I hope you can enjoy it and answer my questions well." After Chen Linen finished speaking, the tentacle wrapped around his neck blocked his mouth, and then the tentacles that penetrated Harvey Harmon's limbs began to rotate slowly, and slowly grew in the wound. Spikes out. The severe pain caused Harvey Harmon's face to twist continuously, but with his mouth bound, he could only howl silently. After the pain gradually became numb, Chen Linen knocked on Harvey Harmon's head, waking him up from the state of fainting. "Wake up! Now it's time to answer my question. Tell me where your brother John Harmon is, or to put it another way, what are the places where he usually stays and what are their addresses?" Hearing Chen Linen's question, Harvey Harmon grinned mockingly and said, "Guess. It's impossible for me to betray my brother. You might as well kill me directly to save effort. Oh, by the way, I just thought about it seriously for a long time, and finally remembered when I saw you. You were the delivery guy that day, right? What a fucking fate, and Paul Mark is really damned, just such a small thing can't be handled well. I've seen your information before, but I didn't expect you to hide it so deeply. Isn't that old guy also a prop for your disguise? What? Harvey Harmon's wild words were interrupted by his own screams. This time, Chen Linen directly cut off his left hand. Stop talking nonsense, tell me the news about your brother. Chen Linen's hoarse voice continued. He did not allow this dying man to insult Old York, even just mentioning it. From the mouth of this scum, he said something about Old York that's the biggest insult. Harvey Harmon just let out a scream and then bit his lip to control himself. His hard teeth made his lips drip with blood. I saw him spit out a mouthful of bloody saliva lightly, and then continued to gasp in a firm voice, I won't say it, kill me. He knew the purpose of Chen Linen's question, so he chose to shut up, and he couldn't let this terrible guy trouble his brother. Hearing Harvey Harmon's refusal and seeing the determination in his eyes, Chen Linen suddenly felt a strange feeling, and he couldn't help laughing. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Laughter echoed in the room. Although he expected that Harvey Harmon would not reveal the news so easily, his answer made Chen Linen feel extremely funny and disgusting. Obviously a scum of society who does all kinds of evil, a scum who can mercilessly take the lives of others. But now he acts like a martyr who died generously, firm and decisive, how funny and ironic. The mocking laughter stopped abruptly and was replaced by Harvey Harmon's scream, because his other palm had also been completely cut off. Chen Linen looked at Harvey Harmon, who was lying on the floor and howled, and growled in a low voice, You have someone you care about. You have feelings too. You deserve it too. You scum. Don't you think you're noble? Think you're great? How ridiculous. I think those words coming out of your mouth are an insult to the alphabet. After venting the anger caused by this feeling, he also took a deep breath, and then sneered softly, You think I can do nothing about you and your brother if you don't say anything. After finishing speaking, Chen Linen took out the cell phone that Harvey Harmon dropped on the ground just now, then shook it at him and said, Your brother will not refuse to answer your call. You said that if I put your current cell phone if you want to take a picture of him and tell him to come here alone if he wants to save you, do you think he will come here? Listening to Chen Linen's words, Harvey Harmon, who was heartbroken, couldn't help but feel a little defensive. He knew that the person in front of him would not let him go, but he didn't want his brother to be killed by this without knowing anything. Guy got stuck. Judging from Chen Linen's current skill, if his brother really came by himself, it must be a disaster. Before, he stared at Chen Linen with red eyes and roared angrily, Damn guy! If you have the guts, come at me. Let me go and we will fight each other. I gave the order to get rid of you. What does it have to do with my brother? Hearing Harvey Harmon's cry, Chen Linen just said in a cold voice, I want to kill you, how can I let your gang leader brother go? Since I choose to kill, I will not leave any trouble, and this trouble includes you. Elder brother. Chapter 31, Mental Riot. Harvey Harmon roared angrily. He stared fixedly at Chen Linen, and then stopped suddenly as if he had thought of something. With a bloody smile on the corner of his mouth, he said, It turns out that's the case, I understand, you have nothing to do now, but you are so angry. It seems that you care about that old guy a lot, right? Let me guess if Paul Mark sent someone to kill you, but in the end they didn't kill you, only the old guy. What? As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Linen cut off one of his legs. Blood flowed from his broken leg and flowed down the wall, staining the wall red. Harvey Harmon felt Chen Linen's suppressed anger, but instead of being afraid, he became even more excited. He just screamed briefly and then bit his lip and shouted with a grin, Ha ha ha, are you angry? It seems I was right. Brush. The tentacles turned into black lights flashed one after another, and Harvey Harmon's hands and feet were cut off, leaving only the torso and head, which was thrown to the ground by Chen Linen. Harvey Harmon's face was covered with blood at this time, but he didn't care, he still shouted frantically, You are angry? Ha 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 ha, you are angry. The more angry you are, the more it means that what I said is right, you care about that old guy, right? You would rather die yourself than him, but the final result is that you live but he dies. Ha ha ha. He had completely collapsed, and he only wanted to end his life quickly. For this reason, he chose to use the most vicious language to anger the person in front of him. This was also his last bit of resistance, he couldn't make this devil feel comfortable. You want to kill me, to avenge that poor old fellow? Come on. Kill me. I've already told you everything. Because of the possibility of leaking, I sent someone to create an accident, but I didn't expect that only an insignificant old guy died, and the most damned thing is that you survived." Harvey Harmon stared, and his fierce words moved his body, causing more blood to flow from the wounds of his already severed limbs. At this time, his brain had blocked out the pain due to the excessive injuries. Even if Chen Linen didn't do anything, he wouldn't be able to survive for long. His eyes were fixed like nails on Chen Linen's trembling body, and he laughed maniacally, "Ha ha 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 ha! You are the one who should be damned. You shouldn't be feeling well either. Ha 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 ha!" Harvey Harmon's crazy laughter and words kept hitting Chen Linen. Venom could feel that his mental fluctuations this time were much more exaggerated than when he faced Paul Mark last time. It was like the sea and sky turned upside down. It was as terrifying as rushing down from the sky. Chen Linen's eyes were red, and Harvey Harmon's blood-stained crazy smile was enlarged sharply in his eyes, and the strong dizziness made him fall to the ground. He felt that his breathing seemed to be magnified 10,000 times, and Harvey Harmon's laughter echoed the violent panting, directly filling his mind. "Calm down. Damn it! You have to calm down. Your brain is about to explode." Venom shouted anxiously in the consciousness space, reminding Chen Linen. But no matter how the Venom reminded him to calm him down, he didn't seem to hear it. His mind was filled with Harvey Harmon's crazy laughter. "Shut up! Shut up!" Chen Linen held his dizzy and swollen head and shouted hoarsely. The strong dizziness and laughter were about to crush his head, and the severe tingling and throbbing temples made him feel like his head was about to explode. "Shut up!" As his words fell, invisible fluctuations scattered, and Harvey Harmon's crazily laughing finally stopped. At the same time, Chen Linen also felt like the world was spinning. He suddenly lost consciousness and fell into a pool of blood. Chen Linen was the only one left in the living room where there were originally 2 people. Harvey Harmon, who was struggling on the floor just now, was nowhere to be seen, and turned into flesh and blood, evenly distributed throughout the living room. After a while, a puddle of black liquid poured out of Chen Linen's body with difficulty, slowly enveloping his whole body, controlling him to walk towards the window. There were obviously only a few steps from the living room to the window, but Venom found it extremely difficult to walk. Chen Linen's tidal-like mental power was still overflowing intermittently like a TV signal after being released just now, affecting its control. In the darkness, Chen Linen only felt as if he had fallen into the bottom of the sea, and the endless sea water wrapped him around, tossing and turning. No matter how hard he struggled and tried his best to float up, the surface of the sea was so far away and untouchable. Some only have endless darkness, as well as a strong sense of suffocation and oppression. He seemed to be locked in a coffin, and then the coffin was thrown into the bottom of the sea again, suffocating, crowded, desperate, and helpless. With the sound of inhalation, Chen Linen suddenly opened his eyes and woke up. The feeling of suffocation was too terrifying. Even if he woke up at this moment, he couldn't help breathing heavily, as if this was his last breath. After taking a dozen deep breaths, Chen Linen gradually calmed down. "You're finally awake," said Venom as he emerged from his body. Looking at Venom's ferocious mouth, Chen Linen actually felt a touch of kindness. Only now did he notice that he had returned to his home, the bed under him, and the familiar decorations and layout of the bedroom, all of which made him feel at ease. "I feel very at ease," Venom said, watching Chen Linen calm down. "Is it a little strange why you suddenly went home?" After hearing Venom's words, Chen Linen realized, yes, wasn't he dealing with Harvey Harmon? Why did you come home suddenly? That terrible nightmare made his brain a lot dull, and he still hasn't reacted yet. His Chen Linen took a breath, and with the stinging pain in his brain, scenes of memories poured out of his mind. Harvey Harmon, who was cut into a stick, and that crazy laughter, he remembered that he seemed to faint, because Harvey Harmon's words made him extremely angry, and then he felt dizzy, and then lost awareness. Chapter 32, Spiritual Crisis. Seeing Chen Linen gradually recalling the situation at that time, Venom also complained and said, "You don't even know how outrageous your frantic spirit was at that time, it even hurt me, and I can't even affect your body, I can only passively just stay in there, just like before. I waited for a while before it stabilized, but it still affects me intermittently." Venom continued helplessly, "Then I controlled your body. First, I made sure there were no problems left at the scene, and then I flew around for a long time before returning home. I still have to wrap up the foam of flesh and blood on my body, so as not to drop and leave clues during the flying process. The smell is really indescribable. What makes me most helpless is that your spirit riots from time to time, and then I am deprived of control. If I hadn't reacted quickly enough, you would have fallen to the ground and died. You know, I can't even help you repair your body when your spirit is rioting. Listening to Venom's complaint, Chen Linen also felt a little embarrassed, so in order to comfort Venom, he promised, sorry, this situation surprised me. I didn't expect it to be like this. I'll buy one when I go out later. A box of chocolates for you as compensation. Venom, who was still vomiting his bitterness, immediately became energetic when he heard this. Hey! I knew you wouldn't let me suffer so much in vain. Hey, which chocolate do I want last time? Imported from Mazi country. Oh. No problem. Chen Linen nodded and said. I have to say that in this incident, he really dragged his feet. Venom is sometimes very reliable. Wait, you just said swearimo? What swearimo? The slightly sluggish reaction made him feel that something was wrong now. Chen Linen suddenly had some bad premonitions about the details that Venom just mentioned. Hearing Chen Linen's question, Venom also patted him on the shoulder and continued, Harvey Harmon's words stimulated you that day, and your mind started a riot uncontrollably, and then you blew him up before he passed out. It turned into minced meat, spread throughout the living room. Listening to Venom's words, and thinking of Harvey Harmon who was blown to pieces, Chen Linen's face also turned pale, but fortunately, he was used to it after so many times, so he didn't have any other major reactions. It's a bit cheap, that damn guy, his death is much happier than Paul Mark's. Chen Linen was silent for a moment, then continued to speak in a cold voice, thinking of that bastard, he wished to kill him again. After he finished speaking, he also thought about it, but I'm still a little surprised, I don't understand why I couldn't control him to make him like that at that time. I remember that I just wanted to shut him up, and didn't want to kill him directly, after all, his greatest value has not yet been brought into play. Hearing his confusion, Venom also said casually, actually, there is nothing to worry about. Your mental power is not completely under your own control now. It is more often your subconscious that affects it. You want him to shut up, so he shut up. The method may be different from what you think, but the result is the same. Speaking of this, Venom also tentatively asked Chen Linen curiously, don't you think that you became like this because of my influence? What did it look like? Chen Linen turned his head and asked, he didn't quite understand the meaning of Venom, what did his mental violence have to do with it? Venom also thought about it after hearing the words, and then said more bluntly, I just feel that my character has become evil and distorted. Thinking about the methods you have treated them these few times, it seems really cruel. I was also wondering if you would feel that it was because of the influence of the symbiote possession that you became as cruel and vicious as you are now. Chen Linen now understood what Venom meant. He didn't realize that Venom was quite sensitive, why did he act like a little girl? I don't think I have this kind of thinking. In my opinion, all these actions are from my heart and my thoughts. Chen Linen shook his head while talking, denying Venom's statement. If it's not that I don't have time to chat with them, I would like to apply the ancient Chinese torture to them, so that I can be worthy of the crimes they bear. Venom was obviously much happier after hearing Chen Linen's words. It opened a piece of chocolate and half of it each with Chen Linen, and then continued, you see, you are very happy. If it were Peter Parker, he would definitely be very distressed. I feel like I'm abnormal and need treatment. Or it's my fault. I think I made him look like that. I admit that I played a little role. After all, I used to amplify my emotions, but the main reason is because his own emotions. Hearing Venom's complaints, Chen Linen couldn't help but smile. Regarding Spider-Man, Venom could probably complain about it for the rest of his life. After all, he never had a good life with Spider-Man and was very angry. While listening to Venom's complaints, Chen Linen lay on the bed and squinted his eyes again. Because of this sudden incident, his original plan was also cancelled. Hey, the most important thing now is how to continue to deal with the mysterious John Harmon. I originally thought it could be solved in one go, but unexpectedly something went wrong again. Hearing Chen Linen's review and thinking while lying on the bed, Venom also stopped complaining, then looked at him seriously and said, rather than solving John Harmon's final revenge, there is a more important problem now, you must first come up with a proper solution. It's what I told you last time. You should be able to guess that there is a problem with your mental power. Hearing Venom's words, Chen Linen sat up with a headache and rubbed his eyebrows and said, I'm also thinking about how to solve this problem. Venom continued, your mental power is too strong, it's like a vast ocean. Furthermore, These two out-of-control situations have made your mental power no longer as controlled as before. If this control is compared to a dam, then these two riots have already caused many cracks in it. If it completely breaks one day, your head will be turned into paste by your own huge mental power. Chapter 33, John Harmon. Hearing this warning again, Chen Linen also covered his head speechlessly and said, "This is really fucking, it's already unacceptable to have a bomb in your head, and now the bomb's insurance has been pulled." Venom also patted Chen Linen's shoulder to comfort him after hearing the words, "Relax and relax, although the situation is not ideal, it is not that bad yet, so we still have to maintain a good attitude in the future, and don't get too excited, especially angry. Calm down your mood and spirit first, and then try to control it. Otherwise, even if your body is getting stronger, it still can't keep up with the possible collapse speed of your mental power. So just take advantage of the fact that your body is gradually getting stronger, and try to control your mental power well. This may even force your body to grow faster. All in all, it is to explore well while controlling your emotions, and strive to control your spiritual power as soon as possible. After all, our wonderful life has just begun, and I don't want ours to end before we go far." Chen Linen felt that Venom's suggestion was very good. In order to prevent himself from dying young, he decided to try some methods to control his mind, such as meditation or vomiting. At first, he thought that the yoga that Venom said last time was a bit ridiculous, but after actually searching, he found that these things seemed to be the only things he could find now. After all, there was only so much he could think of for the time being, and he could only try it on his own through books and the internet. "Hey, I still don't know the information and address of John Harmon, or else just go and kill him and everything will be over." Chen Linen sighed and said to Venom. Venom also said after hearing the words, "Yes, and it has been 2 days now, he must have realized that his brother is dead, and it is even more difficult now. It's been 2 days. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Chen Linen jumped up from the bed after hearing this. He didn't expect that he would be unconscious for 2 days. Venom also said helplessly after hearing the words, "You didn't ask me, and there were too many things to say just now, so I forgot them all at once." Chen Linen rested his forehead and sighed, "It's even more troublesome now, he should have already started investigating. For sure, after all, it has been reported in the news." Venom added after hearing Chen Linen's words. The police said that they had never seen such a cruel and arrogant killing method, and they named the suspect who had no clue, that is, you, the blaster, because the scene seemed to blow people up. But the name doesn't sound good at all. What kind of blaster is too low level? It's just like the bomber. It has no connotation. If you want me to say that these people have no creativity or connotation at all. I don't know if it's because he possessed Peter Parker, but Venom also talks a lot, especially when he starts complaining about some things. Listening to the news and complaints that Venom told him, Chen Linen was also numb. It seems that almost everyone knows about this matter, so Harvey Harmon will know it as long as he is not blind or deaf. The plan was disrupted again. No, it seemed that his plan had not been disrupted before, and the new one hadn't been formulated yet. "I have a headache, what should I do?" In a villa on the outskirts of New York, a blond man who looked about 40 years old was sitting on the sofa with his eyes closed and meditating. His short blonde hair is a bit messy, and his beard looks a bit messy as if he hasn't taken care of it for a few days, but even so, it can be seen that he has a handsome and resolute face. This man is Harvey Harmon's elder brother John Harmon. He has a completely different temperament from Harvey Harmon's big man, and he looks very dignified by a superior. This majesty was most vividly reflected at this moment, because there were many people standing behind and beside him, but they all closed their lips and were silent. Finally, the low-pressure silence was broken by the sound of approaching footsteps. Day, the leather shoes stepped on the floor, making a crisp sound, and a man stopped beside John Harmon. He was wearing a decent black suit, his brown hair was carefully done with hairspray, and his blue eyes under the gold-rimmed glasses looked mature and stable. "Boss, the current investigation by the police has made no progress, and that person has left no trace. But I started from our side and got some information from your brother's subordinates. Although this news seems a little inconspicuous, I feel that it should have something to do with this incident, because there is no other abnormality other than this. This is the report I compiled." He handed a paper report to John Harmon while speaking. John Harmon slowly opened his eyes when he heard the man's words, only to see that his blue eyes were full of red blood, and there was repressed anger and boredom amidst fatigue. As he sat up straight again, the invisible majesty spread around, making everyone in the hall shudder. They all know that the boss has been very irritable these days, and dozens of unlucky people have lost their lives because of this, and they absolutely don't want to be the next one. John Harmon sat up straight and took the relevant information from the man's hand. While he was flipping through it, he picked up the wine glass next to him and drank to soothe his throat. So Harvey asked his men to deal with a college student who was delivering food a few days before the accident. Then the college student seems to be alive until now, but my younger brother is dead. John Harmon's voice was so calm that it was scary. The man standing next to him also pushed up his glasses and added an explanation. The key is that your brother handed over this task to his subordinate Paul Mark, and Paul Mark asked his subordinate to do this kind of work, a person named Rick Frey, to handle it. He caused a car accident, but the delivery boy was lucky enough to save his life. In the following period of time, Rick Frey and Paul Mark disappeared one after another, and their friends and other subordinates could not contact them. Until 2 days ago, your brother was also killed, unfortunately. Judging from this series of events, it is reasonable to judge that the delivery man has an inescapable relationship with these events. If he didn't do it, then he must know something, otherwise things wouldn't be such a coincidence. If he did it, it should be for revenge, because although he did not die in the car accident, an old man died, and the old man adopted him for several years. Chapter 34, Home Service. John Harmon threw the information in his hand on the table, and drank the remaining wine in the glass one after another. The only sound in the room was the sound of ice cubes rolling in the glass. When there were only crystal clear ice cubes left in the wine glass, John Harmon, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke, and his hoarse and deep voice slowly sounded, "Home, so is the person my brother wanted to kill dead?" "Not yet," the man said after hearing the words. His meaning is very simple, not yet, but it can be done at any time. Hearing Holmes' answer, the cup in John Harmon's hand was slowly tightened. Then why did my brother die? Anger was suppressed in his flat tone, and the appearance of Harvey Harmon slowly emerged in front of him, and then suddenly turned into a pile of bloody flesh. "Why?" John Harmon roared and slammed the cup in his hand onto the table. Bang! The wine glass shattered crisply in his hand, and at the same time the shattered glass also scratched his hand, and blood gushed out from the wound, soon covering the entire palm. Facing John Harmon's roar, everyone trembled and dared not speak, including Holm, who was standing beside him like a sculpture. He could only lower his head slightly at this moment. The wound on his hand didn't make John Harmon feel abnormal. He didn't even wrinkle his eyebrows, as if the palm didn't belong to him. He never thought that one day his younger brother would die suddenly, and in such a tragic way. Until now he has no way to accept this cruel reality. He has lived with his younger brother since he was a child. Their mother was just a poor prostitute. When they were very young, they were strangled to death by clients who were unwilling to pay the little money. Never seen it. After their mother died, they were sent to an orphanage. The children in the orphanage laughed at and bullied them crazily after knowing that their mother was a prostitute. Every time he encountered such a situation, it was Harvey Harmon, the younger brother, who went forward before John Harmon, and John Harmon, the older brother, always swallowed his anger in fear of being kicked out of the orphanage. After coming out of the orphanage, the smarter John Harmon took Harvey Harmon to seek life on the streets. The best way out for them, who had no culture or skills, was to join a gang. It was at this time that John Harmon's fortune began. He was able to get along in the gang like a fish in water. Among the gang who only knew how to use muscle and force, he always stood out because he could use his brain. After more than 10 years of hard work, he finally climbed to this position, contributing a large amount of funds to the organization that controls nearly % of the drug market in New York City. John Harmon didn't care about anyone except his only younger brother, Harvey Harmon. He knew that Harvey Harmon didn't like to use his brains and only liked to fight, so he didn't ask him to be responsible for any important tasks. He just let him. He was a simple thug, and then relied on himself as a big tree to enjoy life. But the sky didn't go his way. The bad news came so suddenly. His only younger brother died miserably in his own home, and he couldn't find any clues about the murderer. Such a situation made him extremely angry and maddened. He wished he could immediately find the murderer who killed his brother, and then chop this murderer into minced meat and feed it to the dogs. Shaking away the glass particles and blood on his hands, John Harmon picked up the towel in the tray next to him and wiped his hands, and said to Holm, "Go, bring that guy to me. I want to know who he is and what happened between Harvey and then killed him for him. By the way, how are the bodyguards of Harvey Harmon now?" Holmes said in a deep voice, one couldn't hold on anymore and died, and the remaining 5 are still alive, but they probably won't last long. Harvey Harmon died so tragically, how could the bodyguards responsible for his safety escape John Harmon's punishment? They have been tortured in the basement for the past few days. It is absolutely impossible for John Harmon to let them die happily. Hearing Holmes' report, John Harmon also sat down on the sofa again and said, "Take them all to feed the dog. My dog has been hungry for a few days, and it's time to feed it." After he finished speaking, he waved his hand, and upon seeing this, Holmes also turned around and walked out of the gate. Bang! 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 Several gunshots were heard from behind. This was John Harmon venting his anger. Holmes was not surprised at all. His pace remained steady and his expression remained unperturbed. As John Harmon's right-hand man who has worked beside him for many years, he knew that a few more people were going to be unlucky just by looking at the state just now. Although John Harmon looks very modest in normal times, he is like a lunatic when he gets angry, even more ruthless than Harvey Harmon. Soon Holmes came to the basement. He waved his hand and asked someone to drag out the bloody people inside. These people were Harvey Harmon's bodyguards. At this time, they were completely covered in red and black blood, and there was nothing good about their skin and flesh. There was only despair and numbness in their eyes. The torture of the past few days had completely broken their spirits. Seeming to be suffocated by the bloody smell and stench of these people, Holmes frowned and took out a handkerchief to cover his mouth and nose. He waved his hand again, and said coldly to his subordinates, "Throw them all into the dog cage, and the one who is dead." After giving the order, Holmes quickly left the basement, as if he would be contaminated with those disgusting smells if he stayed for a second longer. Brooklyn, Chen Linen's home. Chen Linen, who has been sleeping for 2 days, is holding a hamburger in his left hand and a pizza in his right hand, and from time to time he sips 2 mouthfuls of Coke on the table, enjoying himself. Next to him, there was also a row of chocolates in front of Venom. Venom broke them off one by one and tasted their differences and advantages and disadvantages. For the past 2 days, he has been lying on the bed and sleeping to recover his energy. He basically didn't eat anything, and he was already hungry. That's why he ordered takeaway directly. While waiting for the takeaway, he was still rummaging at home for food, like a hamster. Okay, after drinking the last sip of Coca-Cola into his stomach, Chen Linen touched his swollen belly and burped comfortably. Finally full, I can feel my body come alive again. Chen Linen slumped on the sofa and squinted his eyes to rest. Venom next to him went to the kitchen to make a cup of tea for each of them. They sat on the sofa and drank tea while relieving their tiredness. Just as they were thinking about what to do next, several cars suddenly stopped on the road outside. Chapter 35, Killing and Punishing the Heart. Chen Linen and Venom in the room also heard this voice, and under the sharing of Venom, Chen Linen also saw those men in black with unfriendly faces getting off the car outside. It seems like they are here to find me. They should be John Harmon's people. This is really thoughtful. I am still worried about how to find him. Chen Linen straightened his clothes, and walked towards the door while talking to Venom. Hearing the words, Venom laughed strangely, and then retracted into his body. It was already looking forward to the extra meal for a while. When Chen Linen opened the door, several men in black with pistols in their hands blocked the door. They pointed their pistols at Chen Linen, and said in a calm but threatening voice, "Please come with us, sir." After seeing their posture, Chen Linen also smiled, and then raised his hand tactfully, allowing them to point a gun at his back and lead him into one of the cars. As soon as he got in the car, Chen Linen's head was covered with a black cloth bag, so that he couldn't see the people in the car, nor the roads and buildings along the way. "Tisk tisk tisk, you are really professional, so it seems that you usually do this kind of thing a lot," Chen Linen said in a frivolous and mocking tone with a black cloth bag on his head. Although the person next to him gave him a very unhappy look, he still didn't dare to talk to him. After all, this is a special period. The boss's side is in a state of volcanic eruption. They don't dare to make any mistakes, lest they become the next victim of the gun. You professionals are really not bad at all. I didn't expect that the people who came to kidnap were all mute. You are really cruel in order not to reveal the information. Chen Linen's mouth was still very harmful and venomous. Of course he knew what these people said. He was ordered not to speak, but that didn't stop him from being disgusting here. After trying a few more times, seeing that there was still no response from the people next to him, Chen Linen shut his mouth and waited quietly to get off the bus. At this moment, his heart was extremely calm, and he was even very happy, which was why he talked so much on the road. Because he felt that his revenge this time was coming to an end, and his extermination would only be considered as complete after he had dealt with John Harmon. The point of view he has always adhered to in dealing with the enemy is to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, leaving no future troubles. Any hesitation in dealing with the enemy may cause more harm to himself. The vehicle drove very fast, and it didn't take long for them to arrive at John Harmon's villa. Chen Linen was wearing a black hood, and was brought to a living room by two men with guns on the left and right. There were no other people in the living room at this time, only John Harmon and his bodyguards. Chen Linen was tied to a stool, and Holm next to him pulled off the black hood on his head, pushed his glasses to look at his appearance, and said to John Harmon, "That's the man." 1, 2, 37, 8, a total of 8 people. The few who just went to my house are also here. It just happens that it will be convenient to solve it in a while. While John Harmon looked at Chen Linen was also counting in his mind. How many people are there in total here? You don't look surprised at all. John Harmon said, looking at the calm Chen Linen. The more this happens, the more it means that Chen Linen knows more and the deeper the connection with this series of events. Thinking of this, John Harmon's eyes gradually narrowed, and a fierce light flashed inside. Chen Linen didn't answer the question, but looked up at him with interest and asked, "You are John Harmon? You look very similar to that bastard Harvey Harmon. You are indeed a brother." Hearing his insults to Harvey Harmon, John Harmon's face darkened, and then he ordered to Holm next to him, "I'll leave it to you. I hope to know the answer in 10 minutes. After speaking, he stood up and was about to leave here. Chen Linen's arrogance made him very uncomfortable. After prying Chen Linen's mouth open, he would personally deal with this ignorant guy. Seeing the movement of John Harmon preparing to leave, Chen Linen also laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha ha, don't worry, didn't we just meet? Why do we have to leave? Don't you just want to know who killed that bastard and what is the connection between me and that bastard's death? I can tell you the answer directly." Linen said with an even bigger smile on his face, "I killed him and made him look like a balloon." Bang! It exploded into a meat paste, "Ha ha 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 ha. I'm really sorry, I should have caused a lot of trouble for your cleaning work. I don't know if that guy has been completely gathered together by you, maybe there is still a part of it in some corner. But it's okay, mice, those cute little cockroaches will clean up for you." Listening to Chen Linen's verbal stimulation to John Harmon, Venom couldn't help but sigh, "You really have some talents. I think after these few things, you are becoming more and more skilled at doing this kind of thing." Chen Linen also responded in his mind when he heard this, "Low-key, not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. In China, this is called killing people and killing people's hearts. This is a truth that everyone understands." Listening to Chen Linen's words, John Harmon's expression changed again and again, and the anger in his heart could no longer be contained. Bang bang bang! He directly grabbed the pistol from the bodyguard beside him, and then fired continuously at Chen Linen, who was tied to the stool until the magazine was empty. Crack, click, click. The bullets in a pistol were empty, making the sound of an empty magazine. John Harmon threw it aside, then changed another one and continued shooting. His red eyes were full of hatred and anger, which made everyone present feel a little scared. After emptying 3 pistols in succession, John Harmon's anger calmed down a little. He panted heavily and straightened his messy hair, and then said to Holm on the side, "Go. Prepare tools, I chop him into minced meat and feed it to the dogs." Just when Holm nodded and prepared to take action, Chen Linen, who had been beaten by bullets, suddenly made another move. "Ha ha!" Chen Linen yelled and opened his eyes, as if he had just woken up from a dream. Watching his movements, everyone present stared in disbelief at his tattered clothes with some blood stains. The condition of this dress showed that everything just now was not a dream. That being the case, why did the person who should have died come back to life? Chapter 36, at the end. Seeing Chen Linen come back to life, Holm, who had always been delicate and calm, was now panicking. He couldn't help but look at his boss, and found that the anger and irritability on the latter's face had faded, replaced by the same astonishment and fear that everyone had. People are always full of curiosity about the unknown, but if the unknown has exceeded the range that people can accept, then curiosity will turn into fear. Obviously, resurrection from the dead has gone beyond these normal understanding and acceptance. Crack! The rope tied to Chen Linen's body was like a fragile piece of paper, instantly shattered and fell to the ground. Chen Linen stood up from the chair, letting the black liquid penetrate and wrap around his body, and said with a ferocious smile, "Your turn is over, now it's my turn." As his words fell, a terrifying monster more than 2 meters tall appeared in front of everyone. The narrow pale eyes and the large mouth full of sharp teeth all indicate that the creature in front of him is not a normal human being. In their eyes, Chen Linen seemed to be possessed by a devil from hell, turning into a terrifying existence. At this moment, they finally understood why Chen Linen, who didn't seem to be anything special, was able to bypass Harvey Harmon's bodyguards and directly kill him, because Chen Linen was not a normal person, he was a demon walking in the world. The monster in front of them was the answer. They had never seen such a terrifying monster, and they had never thought that humans could become like this. Oh my god! What a monster! The well-trained professional bodyguards were also panicked at this moment, and a few religious ones even began to pray in a low voice. The training they received had always been for people, and no one had told them what to do against monsters. Chen Linen's cold eyes scanned the people present. He stretched out a hand and stopped it in the air, then fired all the bullets that had just been shot into his body through a few fingers. Bang! 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 Dot! As he waved his right hand, the bullets hit these people one by one from left to right like a curtain. Chen Linen's hand was like a machine gun, crackling and firing out all the bullets he had just absorbed. In an instant, 5 of the 8 people present were killed, including the always decent and delicate Home. A bullet first shattered the glasses on his nose, and then went straight into his head, took his life. Oh! 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 Calm down, I don't like to eat brains that have stopped thinking. Their taste is very different from fresh brains. Seeing Chen Linen's indiscriminate shooting, Venom shouted hurriedly. Hearing the Venom's cry, Chen Linen also lowered his arm, just as all the bullets had been fired at this time. With a leap, he jumped directly to the side of the 2 surviving people, and then lifted them up one by one. The big mouth full of sharp teeth opened up and down, presenting an extremely exaggerated angle, more than enough for a head to fit in. Crack! Crack! With the sound of 2 crisp bones breaking, 2 headless corpses appeared on the ground. Looking at the 2 headless corpses lying on the ground and the blood gushing from their broken necks, the only survivor, John Harmon, also went mad in panic and despair. He is still angry about his brother's death, but everything that has happened since then has continued to challenge the worldview he has formed over the past 40 years. Seeing Chen Linen approaching, he stumbled to the cabinet next to him, opened the top drawer, took out a submachine gun from inside and fired at Chen Linen, although the bullets seemed useless from the pistol shooting just now, but John Harmon definitely didn't want to sit still. Chen Linen approached John Harmon, lifted him up with one hand, and pulled the submachine gun that was still pouring bullets over with the other hand, and then squeezed it into a lump of iron. You should know this kind of toy doesn't work for me, don't you? Don't worry, I will send you down to accompany your younger brother soon, don't you love him very much? I hope you two can be together in hell. The hoarse voice rang in John Harmon's ears, making him tremble all over who had been lifted into the air. Looking at the struggling John Harmon, Chen Linen slowly opened his mouth full of sharp teeth. Devil! You are the devil! John Harmon stared at Chen Linen, and spat out a few words from the pinched throat with all his strength. Looking at John Harmon who believed that he was the devil, Chen Linen felt that it was necessary to correct him, so he said, No, 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 it's not the devil. God and Satan can't control me. I am a unique existence. We are Venom. After speaking, Chen Linen bit off John Harvey's neck with one bite, and asked him to go down to be with his dear brother. Plop! After throwing John Harmon's body on the ground, Chen Linen also reverted to a normal-sized Venom form, hidden form. Someone is going upstairs, and there are quite a few of them. Venom reminded Chen Linen. Chen Linen also nodded and smiled when he heard this. It seems that you can have a full meal today. After saying that, he turned around and faced the door that was still closed. Then, the moment the door was about to open, he broke out directly, catching those who were rushing in with weapons ready to shoot by surprise. His hands had turned into sharp claws at this moment, with a dark metallic luster exuding from the top. There were a lot of gang members with guns outside, and their reactions were quick. Although Chen Linen broke through the door suddenly, they were a little caught off guard, but soon the rest of the people were holding guns, following Chen Linen's moving figure, and pouring bullets at him. Chen Linen was not afraid of the overwhelming bullets at all. He acted as if he didn't feel anything. He lightly slit their throats with his claws, turned his head and opened his mouth to swallow their heads. In less than a minute, everyone in the venue had turned into corpses lying on the ground. They were either torn into several pieces by sharp claws, or their heads were swallowed, turning them into headless corpses. Chen Linen's black figure stood on the field covered with corpses and blood, and it really looked like a ghost running out of the gate of hell, which was really creepy. Ah, what a satisfying and enjoyable meal! Venom poked his head out from Chen Linen's shoulder and let out a satisfied sigh. Today's meal is the fullest it has eaten since it landed on the earth. It obviously doesn't have a stomach, but it feels like it can't eat. Chapter 37, Daily Life Before School Starts. Seeing Venom's satisfied look, Chen Linen also smiled and said, "Remember the feeling this time, I don't think there will be such an opportunity in the future." Venom nodded when he heard this. Although it felt a pity, it also knew how rare it was to directly kill dozens of people like today. This villa is basically empty. It seems that John Harmon's management methods are quite strict. No one slipped away just now. They all rushed here after finding out that something was wrong. Chen Linen sighed to Venom while perceiving the situation of the villa. But this also saves us a lot of trouble. Okay, everyone has finished dealing with it, and it's time for us to leave. Chen Linen said and walked towards the window, but when he saw the high-quality wine in the wine cabinet next to him, he paused and then walked straight over there. "Why, you still want to have a drink afterwards? This is too cool." Seeing Chen Linen's actions, Venom also complained next to him. Chen Linen also knocked on Venom's head when he heard the words, and then explained, "What are you talking about and have a drink? I was thinking that since this is all settled, it's better to set another fire to make it disappear more cleanly." As he spoke, he branched out many tentacles, manipulated them to open all the high-quality wine in the wine cabinet, and then spilled it on the ground. Chen Linen doesn't drink, and these perhaps very expensive wines are meaningless to him. Being fuel for this fire may be the best role they can play. After pouring the wine, Chen Linen rummaged through the pockets of the dead body on the ground and found several lighters. Ding! Bah! He turned on several lighters and lit them, then threw them on the ground. The flame instantly spread along the alcohol soaked in the carpet, and then climbed along the wall to the curtains, desks, bookshelves, and all other combustion aids. "Let's go, let's go! If we don't go for a while, the fire will burn all over us." As the fire spread, Venom gradually felt uncomfortable and urged Chen Linen to leave quickly. Hearing this, Chen Linen also walked to the window, then jumped out of the window and left the villa. Although those people covered his head when they first arrived, it had no effect in front of Venom's perception. He still remembered clearly the way in the future tense. He ran along the route in his head and soon returned to his home. At this moment, he only felt relaxed. His revenge came to an end with the spread of the fire, and the stone that had been pressing in his heart for a long time could finally fall to the ground. "Go and bring some flowers to the old man tomorrow, tell him the good news, finally revenge." Chen Linen was lying on the bed, thinking about it as he slowly fell asleep. Venom next to him felt his finally relaxed spirit, and thoughtfully helped him close the curtains and cover him with a quilt. After solving everything, Chen Linen's life finally returned to peace again. He had never thought that so many things would happen. After being reborn, he just wanted to cherish his family and live an ordinary but happy life. However, the accidents and experiences during this period of time completely disrupted his previous imagination. Whether it was killing people or the venom on his body now, it reminded him that he could no longer return to an ordinary life. At this time, Chen Linen would not know that there would always be various troubles in his life in the future. There are still a few days before school starts, and he plans to go back to China for a trip to see China in this different world. He went to the area where he lived in his previous life, but in this world it has a different name. The orphanage in his memory did not exist. Instead, there was a snack street. Chen Linen had already expected such a result, and he smiled relievedly when faced with such a result. After leaving there, Chen Linen took the Venom to Bashu, where he tried the idea he had had before, brain roasting. Venom had been looking forward to this for a long time, and when the first brain flower entered its stomach, it was out of control. Since then, the legend of a man who ate 200 servings of roasted brains has been widely circulated in Bashu. Chen Linen, who had already boarded the plane back to New York, of course didn't know this. He was still complaining about the outrageous appetite of Venom, which almost emptied his wallet. If it wasn't for Chen Linen's stop, Venom would probably continue to eat another 200 servings. Speaking of wallets, in fact, Chen Linen was not short of money. Back then, Old York wasn't short of money, so he was able to keep the restaurant open even when the pizza was unpalatable. After that, the pizza shop changed its taste, the business got better and better, and the money it earned naturally increased. In addition, he and Old York were not big spenders, so after accumulating wealth over the past few years, they had a large amount of funds in their accounts that could be moved at any time. Returning to China this time, Chen Linen not only traveled around, he also put some of his previous ideas into action, spending money to invest in many companies that he thought had great potential, just waiting for them to bear fruit. Since he invested in companies in China and Europe and the United States, Chen Linen certainly did not miss out. Using the information in his head, he was able to seize a very promising future with a small sum of money. In addition to investing, he also wants to set up a group by himself. He has already thought of a name, and it is called Zero Industry. As for why he chose this name, he has no special idea, simply because he likes the number 0. His goal is of course a behemoth like Stark Industries, but he is definitely still far away from the goal now. For a researcher, there is nothing more alluring than putting their ideas into action and producing results. One thing that Chen Linen is better than most researchers is that he has enough funds, and he can continue to make a lot of money to support his own research, so he does not need to go to places like Stark Industries or Osborne hold a position in a place like the group, and then apply for project approval funds. He can do whatever he wants with his own money. As much money as he has, he will first do research and results that can be supported by this part of the money, and he will continue when the results can bring more funds. Starting from the two sectors of communication technology and biotechnology that he is familiar with and can grasp, Chen Linen first acquired many small companies with potential but failed to operate, and then integrated them to establish two companies. These two companies are responsible for the communication technology and biotechnology sectors respectively, but they also belong to Chen Linen's Zero Industrial Group. It wasn't until the start of school that Chen Linen established the structure he envisioned, and the specific results still had to wait for the company's scientific researchers and his own research. He already has many good ideas that are being perfected, and he believes that when these products start to come out, his Zero Industry can quickly gain a foothold in these two fields. Thank you all for your support. I will continue to work hard. I love you. Remember to keep reading. It's still a little seedling now, and it's easy to grow a book. Thank you again for your support. Okay. Chapter 38, Felicia's Invitation. It was time for the school to start soon, and Chen Linen, who stepped into the campus again, also felt a sigh of relief. Too many things happened this summer vacation, which he had never expected before. He never thought that Old York would leave him suddenly, he never thought that he would coexist with a terrifying alien creature, and he would no longer be an ordinary person from then on. He never thought that one day he would kill with his own hands, and the method was so cruel. Never thought that Peter Parker, who is as academic as him, is Spider-Man. Hey Leon! Felicia's voice sounded from behind Chen Linen as he finished class and walked towards the parking lot. Felicia had just finished class at this time, and when she saw Chen Linen, she quickly caught up with him with her book in her arms. Today she is wearing an off-white knitted long sleeve paired with a dark coffee-colored skirt and small boots. The originally very fresh outfit reveals some sexy under the blessing of her excellent figure, which is very eye-catching. The postcards and photos you sent me are really beautiful. After reading them, I think I can go to Huaxia for my next trip. Then you have to help me with reference and guide me. Chen Linen sent her a lot of postcards and photos while traveling in China, which seemed to have ignited her passion for travel. She had just come back not long ago, but now she was planning to go out again. Faced with Felicia's request, Chen Linen certainly had no problem. As a Chinese, it would be ridiculous if he couldn't help in this regard. As Chen Linen walked, he shared his travel experiences with Felicia. Felicia was also very interested in this aspect and kept curiously asking about related experiences. Soon they walked to the parking lot. Chen Linen looked at Felicia and asked, "Are you driving? If not, I can go see you off." Chen Linen knew that Felicia's family was very rich, but they had already come here, so of course they still had to ask out of politeness. Hearing Chen Linen's question, Felicia also smiled and said, "Then please send me, I just happen to have a lot of things about China that I want to know from you." "My honor." Chen Linen smiled and helped her open the car door. Felicia also said thank you softly, and then got into the car. Not far away, a red Ferrari parked there, watching its owner forget himself. After getting in the car, the two chatted happily all the way, and soon the car drove downstairs to Felicia's house. After Felicia thanked Chen Linen again, she got out of the car and walked toward the elevator inside, but after taking only 2 steps, she suddenly turned back. Chen Linen was about to start, but he stopped after seeing Felicia's movements. What's wrong? Did something fall? Chen Linen said while looking at the co-pilot's seat to see if something had fallen. Felicia shook her head, then bent down and put her arms on the rolled-down car window, blinked, and said with a smile, "Nothing fell, it's just that I suddenly thought that there is a jewelry exhibition to go to in a few days, you have time to go with me." Jewelry exhibition? Chen Linen said with some confusion. Felicia nodded and continued, "Because my mother invested in this exhibition, the organizer originally invited my mother, but my mother didn't have time, so she asked me to show up. But such activities are usually very boring, and I am also very distressed, so I don't know if you have time to go with me. It will be more interesting if the 2 of us are together." After listening to Felicia's explanation, Chen Linen also thought about his arrangements for the past few days. After making sure that he seemed to have nothing else to do except doing research, he readily agreed to Felicia's invitation. Seeing this, Felicia also showed a happy smile. After waving to Chen Linen, she walked briskly into the building. After seeing off Felicia, Chen Linen drove towards home. The evening breeze poured in through the half-opened window and blew his hair. Driving in such a leisurely and relaxing summer day is also very relaxing. It would be even better if there is no noise coming from the right. I saw Venom wriggling around in the co-pilot's seat, pulling his hoarse voice to match the music in the car. Oh! 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 Entering the chorus, a high note from the Venom directly let Chen Linen know what is worse than killing a pig. The current singing voice is matched with this adjective. "A piece of chocolate, can you shut your mouth?" Chen Linen couldn't stand it any longer and resorted to his trump card, planning to use chocolate to silence the Venom. Hearing this, Venom glanced at Chen Linen disdainfully and said, "Sorry, I'm singing to soothe my mood, don't disturb me." 2 yuan. Chen Linen said without any hesitation. "Sorry, I still feel happier singing now." Venom shook his head, and then continued to shout, "Oh! My love! 2 pieces of chocolate imported from Russia. If you still refuse, don't blame me for being rude." Chen Linen's eyes twitched, and he offered the last price. If the Venom still doesn't get in, then he can't guarantee whether he will do something bad, such as making it unable to eat chocolate for half a month. After hearing the words, Venom finally stopped his ugly singing, shook his head and said regretfully, "It's a pity, you can't appreciate my natural singing style." It stopped mainly because it respected Chen Linen's opinion, not because it was afraid that he would be rude or because it did it for the chocolate. Chen Linen said speechlessly, "Come on, are you returning to nature? It's obviously liberating your nature. After listening to your singing, I almost have the weakness of being afraid of noise." "What are you talking about?" Venom said indignantly, "My singing is not noise. Apologize to me." Of course Chen Linen would not apologize to him, he was still arguing with the Venom, spraying each other somewhere. Just as Chen Linen was driving and bickering with Venom, a cry for help suddenly came from the alley not far away. Chen Linen immediately parked the car on the side of the road, and got out of the car while listening to the sound more carefully. This section of the road is relatively dark at night, and there is no surveillance, so the security is not particularly good, presumably someone has encountered something bad. When encountering such a thing, Chen Linen certainly wouldn't just watch it like this. Although he has returned to his daily life, he cannot pretend that nothing happened and just walk away. Chapter 39, Robbery on the Road. It was an old man who was robbed. After listening attentively, the voice was amplified many times in an instant, making it easy for Chen Linen to hear the content clearly. In the next moment, the Venom quickly wrapped Chen Linen's body and turned into a normal-sized hidden person. He wanted to help the poor old man. In an alley not far away, a young gangster wearing a baseball cap was holding a pistol and forcing a grey-haired old lady to hand over her wallet and valuables. The old lady was too frightened by the pistol to move around, but she still begged the gangster, "Please, I don't have much money. My money is used to buy medicine. My husband is very sick. Please let me go." She clutched the bulging handbag tightly in her hand, trembling all over. "Hurry up! Damn old woman, if you don't want to have a hole in your head, just give me the bag." The gangster in the baseball cap looked fiercely at the busy old lady, and finally snatched her bag impatiently. "Pata!" The gangster moved too much, and scattered all the contents of the old lady's bag on the ground. The bag was indeed full of medicines, except for the box. Old guy. It's so slow. Cursing, the gangster kicked away the medicine and took the bag and was about to leave, completely ignoring the old lady's begging. He was also very unhappy at the moment, because he didn't gain much from the robbery this time, and this old lady is a poor ghost. The old lady didn't dare to stop the gangster who was about to leave, so she could only slowly squat down on the ground and pick up the scattered medicines one by one. At least the medicines were still there. Compared with the money in the bag, these medicines are more important things, because his husband needs these medicines, and she has no money to buy them again now. Even if it is added to the bag, it is not enough. Just as the gangster was mumbling and cursing the poor old lady while walking out of the alley, a black figure suddenly appeared and kicked him directly into a garbage dump beside him. The bag in his hand was also thrown out with the movement, and was firmly caught by Chen Linen's outstretched hand. "Ma'am, your bag," Chen Linen said in a flat and hoarse voice, and then handed the bag to the old lady who had just picked up the medicine and stood up. Although Chen Linen's dress looked strange, the old lady was not afraid of him. After all, he had just helped her get her bag back. Thank you, thank you." The old lady thanked Chen Linen repeatedly and stuffed the medicine in her hand back into her bag. Facing the old lady's thanks, Chen Linen said in a calm voice, "You're welcome, go home quickly. It's not safe here. Don't pass by here again, especially at night." The old lady nodded with some fear after hearing this, and then blessed Chen Linen gratefully, thank you, may God bless you." After she finished speaking, she hugged her bag and medicine, and quickly left the alley. After experiencing this incident, she decided to take a taxi after going out. Although the fare made her feel a little stressed, it was better than being robbed again. After all, if she came again, she was not sure that she would be lucky enough to escape. Chen Linen watched the old lady get into the car in the alley, and sighed inwardly, what the hell, suffering always likes to find these unsatisfactory people one after another. If he hadn't passed by here today, the old lady's life would have been even more difficult. At this time, the gangster who was kicked into the trash can also slowed down. While running to the other side of the alley, he turned his head and said harsh words to Chen Linen, "Damn it! Don't leave if you want to. You hateful guy! I will come back later to settle accounts with you." It was obvious that he felt from the kick just now that Chen Linen could not be dealt with by himself. He was already a little timid and cautious, and with the masked guy like Spider-Man in front of him, he did not dare to do it alone. Go ahead and fuck this masked weirdo. So he decided to call someone first, and then deal with this masked weirdo who dared to spoil his good deeds. A single gun may not be able to solve this person, but he will not be afraid if a group of people have several guns. This guy is really cowardly. Looking at the gangster who had disappeared, Venom also said with disdain. Just waiting for him to call someone over to clean up together. The law and order in this area should be better if these people are eliminated. Chen Linen said. I'm going to eat bullets again in a while. That thing is really not good. It was quite novel at first, but now I eat too much and it doesn't feel very good. Thinking of what might happen in a while, the venom also blew up. Bared Teeth said. During this period of time, he has eaten too much food, so he has no sense of bullets and gunpowder, which were a bit special snacks at first. Chen Linen also sighed when he heard the venom. I don't like to make such a big commotion, but there is no way, guns are not allowed here, and everyone has a gun. A situation like this is inevitable. But I shouldn't need to eat bullets for a while. I just used them to practice my hands. With my current skills, they should not be able to hit me. While they were chatting, the gangster in a baseball cap who had just left returned to the alley with 5 or 6 people. It's this masked guy who spoiled my good deed. The existence of these people obviously made the baseball cap gangster a lot more courageous. He held a gun in one hand and stared fiercely at Chen Linen. Hey! Do you know that this is our territory? The bald man standing next to the baseball cap gangster said viciously, do you think you're Spider-Man with a mask on? You're kidding. Chen Linen was unmoved by these cruel words. On the contrary, Venom shouted with some dissatisfaction, he thinks we can't compare to that boring guy Spider-Man. This bald guy is dead. Seeing that Chen Linen didn't respond, the gangsters stopped talking nonsense, picked up their pistols and shot at him. Bang! 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 There were several flashes of fire in the dark alley, and the bullets shot out from the muzzle of the gun and shot towards Chen Linen. With the support of extraordinary reflexes, Chen Linen's reaction was faster than bullets. He dodged all the bullets with just a few moves. Then he got close to the gangsters and began to use their bodies as sandbags to experiment with his fighting skills. With screams and occasional gunshots, the group of gangsters fell to the ground in a short while. Although he didn't use bloody methods today, he didn't hold back from these people either. They either had died or were about to die. Chen Linan will not be like Spider-Man, even if these people want to kill him, he will hold back. He is not this style, and these people are unlucky to meet him today. After dealing with these people, Chen Linan drove home with a lot of thoughts in his mind. Ever since he gained such extraordinary power, his life was no longer ordinary. Although it is said that he will not wander around the city every day like Spider-Man, intervening in big and small things. But when something like this happened on the road, he couldn't stand by and watch. There may be a lot of trouble in the future, but it doesn't matter, as Venom said, the combination of the two of them is like a fateful arrangement, as long as they are strong enough, there will be no major trouble. Chapter 40, Jewelry Exhibition and Accident. In the next few days, Chen Linan's life was uneventful and normal. He still went to class, did research, and then went home. At this stage, his goal is to produce results as soon as possible so that his company can grow as soon as possible. He would go to the pizzeria every few days to see how the business was doing. This place carried half of Old York's life and the imprints of their lives in the past few years. He also wanted to continue to operate the pizzeria. Occasionally, he would help someone when he met someone in need. After all, acting bravely is a habit engraved in his bones. He happened to meet someone and had the ability to do it. Soon it was the weekend. Chen Linan simply washed up after waking up, then had breakfast, and went back to the bedroom to match his clothes. Today was the day when he and Felicia made an appointment to go to the jewelry exhibition. Formal attire was a must for such occasions, which was why he needed matching clothes. After getting dressed and fixing his hair, Chen Linan looked at the time on his watch and then went out with the garbage he had collected. When he threw the rubbish into the trash can outside, Felicia also drove to his door. Beep! With the sound of the horn, the windows of the silver Porsche slowly fell, revealing Felicia's pretty face. "Are you ready to go?" Felicia smiled at Chen Linan and said, "Why didn't I notice that you looked so elegant in a suit before?" Against the background of the suit, Chen Linan's tall and straight figure looked more stylish, and his whole temperament became as mature as the back of his hair that he had tidied up at the moment. He was a handsome mix of elegance and restraint. Chen Linan opened the car door and sat in the co-pilot, jokingly said, "The last time I wore a suit was at the high school prom, and I only stayed for 5 minutes before leaving. It would be strange if you could have noticed it before. By the way, you are beautiful too." After finishing speaking, Chen Linan also praised Felicia. Today's Felicia is also very delicately dressed, with long blonde hair falling softly on her fair and straight shoulders, and a string of pearl necklaces hanging around her neck, making her collarbone even more well-proportioned. The long black dress wrapped her exquisite body. For the convenience of driving, she lifted the hem of the skirt and put it on her thighs, revealing 2 slender legs, which looked elegant and full of charm. Hearing Chen Linan's compliment, Felicia also snorted and teased, "Your compliment is too weak, otherwise I might be happier." After she finished speaking, she handed a pair of stilettos to Chen Linan, then smiled and said with a wink, "In order to punish you for being perfunctory, help me keep them, I don't know how to drive while wearing them." Chen Linan took the high heels in a daze, and before he could say anything else, Felicia stepped on the gas pedal. With the roar of the engine, Chen Linan only felt a huge push back, and the street scenes on both sides also quickly moved backwards. Their car was speeding down the street like a silver bullet. Under Felicia's fast speed, they arrived at the exhibition hall in Queens in less than 15 minutes. This speed can no longer be called the operation is fast, but it should be very amazing. While racing along the road, Felicia and Venom seemed very excited, while Chen Linan watched Felicia's skillful movements while paying attention to the surrounding road conditions. It can be seen that Felicia's driving skills are also very good, her reaction speed is very fast, and her control of the vehicle is also very good. Although Felicia had already stated that he would also go racing when he sent her home last time, he was still a little surprised after sitting next to him and experiencing it. After all, this is very different from the elegant and lively Felicia in his previous impression. Looking at Felicia, who was holding his arm in the venue at this time, returning to her elegant posture and greeting the guests around her in a graceful manner, Chen Linan also renewed her previous understanding of Felicia in her heart. Perhaps because she noticed his gaze, Felicia also turned her head and winked at him, showing a sly look and a smile. "Are you surprised?" "There is one thing, I didn't expect you to be so courageous. Chen Linan also nodded when he heard the words, and then said affirmatively, the driving skills are indeed very good. I never thought that someone could drive in such traffic conditions in New York City. Get off the drag race. This time the compliment is not so flimsy, it seems to be telling the truth. Felicia covered her mouth and smiled lightly. Chen Linan also laughed when he heard this and said, haha, what I said before is also true. Then they chatted and continued to visit the exhibits. This exhibition included many exquisite jewelry and accessories. They were not only exhibited as exhibits, but could also be purchased on the spot if anyone wanted to. After a while, Chen Linan, who was looking at the jewelry, suddenly heard a strange beeping sound from the ceiling. The sound was so slight that he was probably the only one who noticed it. Just when he was wondering what the sound was, suddenly a warning sounded in his heart, it was the Venom warning. At the same time, Venom also communicated with him in his consciousness, there was someone on the ceiling, and he threw something that made a beeping sound on it, like a bomb. Be careful. Chen Linan subconsciously took Felicia and walked forward quickly, avoiding the place he felt was dangerous. The next moment after they left, there was a loud noise on the ceiling, and a big hole was opened by the bomb. Hey 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 hey! Ha 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 ha! A burst of strange laughter came from outside. Chen Linan followed the sound and looked up, only to see a strange person stepping on a strange flying machine flying in through the big hole in the ceiling. He was wearing a khaki-colored cape with a large pointed hat and pointed boots. He also wore khaki-colored long sleeves on his hands. He seemed to be wearing a blue tights underneath, but only on some parts of his arms and legs. Will be exposed. There is also a mask with a strange material and shape under the pointed hat and big cloak, which looks like a Halloween doll. The sudden explosion and this strange person made the whole venue panic. They ran around and scattered towards the edge of the venue. Some visitors who happened to be standing in the middle were killed by the explosion or their heads were smashed by gravel. There are also some unlucky guys whose legs or arms were crushed by the falling ceiling, unable to run to the edge to hide, and could only lie on the ground weakly and howl. End of this chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.